Hello, you guys. Hello, hello, hello. So tonight we are going to talk about some policing. I did a video the other night, showed you guys a little information on how I felt, where we're at right now in 2021. So before we get started, hello, Kathy, how are you? So I am still waiting for John Tisha and Chris, but in the meantime, brace yourself. Yeah, brace yourself, you guys. It's about to be good. So again, we are going to talk a little bit about policing and where we are in 2021 and kind of how we got here. We are going to talk about what's the solution going forward. We're going to get into how policing and identity politics kind of mesh together. We're going to get into it all right now. Hello, Taylor. How are you? Hello, Larry. Hello, Linda. Hello, hello, hello. Don't forget to like and share this video. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Like I said, Chris and John Tisha will be here at some point, but in the meantime, we are going to welcome Austin to the screen.
Hello, Chelly.
Hi, how are you, Austin?
I'm well. Thank you for having me tonight.
You're very welcome. We are also going to welcome Josh to the screen.
What's going on, man?
How are you? How are you?
You're doing okay. Maintaining. You know how it goes.
I do. So the three of us, I think we've all talked about policing and issues within police departments and where we are now. We've talked about how identity politics plays roles. I'd like us all to kind of get into, we're going to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it tonight. That being said, I want to talk a little bit about what I talked about on Saturday, just to kind of catch us up to speed on it. Oh, thank you, babe. Thank you. Sorry, my husband's bringing me food.
So kind.
He is very
What
kind.
a great man that is.
He cooked it too. He cleaned, he cooked today. He was like on his shit today. He was all over the place. But anyway, sorry, you guys. So now, so on, I think my show was on Saturday night. I think Saturday. So on Saturday, I talked about where we are kind of today with policing. There was a shooting on Saturday here in Chicago. A female police officer got shot. I wound up receiving, I'm back to work, so I wound up receiving countless messages on Messenger from my viewers. One, like countless. I wound up getting text messages. I was getting cell phone calls. The female officer, it was 11:30 on Saturday morning. It was sunny and beautiful in Chicago. It's not even lunchtime. Female Hispanic officer gets shot. So I got tons of calls. It was crazy. So that kind of what threw me into doing the video I did on Saturday night was my thoughts for that were, this is for Chicago. This is the 20th police officer that has either been shot at or shot in 2021. And we're not even out of March yet. And that's Chicago alone. I think throughout the United States, I believe we're over 50 already.
Yes. I believe it's 57 if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So that being said, that kind of just like that thought of people like reaching out to me, wondering if I was okay. Like I was like, okay, it's time to make this video now. So that's kind of what threw me into it. Now, in America, if we're going to talk about the United States, in America, there are 800,000 police officers throughout America, 800,000. America's population is 331 million. White people make up about 60%. It used to be much higher. It used to be in the 70s. It has dwindled down to like a little over 60%. Hispanic has went up. It's about 18.5%. Black Americans have went down a little bit. They're about between 12.2 and 12.8. I think Native Americans were like 0.2. The population, thank you, babe. I appreciate you. I will. So other populations were very small. So that being said, if you do the math, like simple math will tell you that the police population, and I'm going to say it's a population because they are getting killed at an alarming rate. That is not fake news. It is not a conspiracy theory. The numbers do not lie. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Ruby. How are you? Hi, Chris. Hi, Suni. I love you, Chelly. I love you too. So that being said, the numbers don't lie. So simple math will tell you if there's 800,000 police officers, 331 million Americans, that means that the police population is like 0.25. I think it's even a little less of the whole population, 0.25. Now officers are killed almost 20% now. Last summer, mid 2020, it was about 18.5. By a couple months later, I believe by September, it went up to about 18.9, and I believe now it's about 20%. Am I right in that, Austin?
Yeah, it's close to that. It's alarming. I know last year, for record, was the deadliest year on record for police casualties, and we're already well on the way this year for surpassing that. If you just go by, we're in the first 3 months of the year, and of course, this is the 7th mass shooting in Boulder yesterday since the beginning of the year. Troubling, I would say. Anybody with common sense, right, Josh?
Rest in peace, Eric Talley. Yes, rest in peace to Officer Eric Talley. Was killed in the Boulder shooting along with 9 other innocent people. We will get a little bit into that as well. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just kind of saw it in the comments. But so yeah, that being said, so that's kind of what I talked about on Saturday. And to me, I'm like, how did we get here? Right? Like, how are we here? And I know like everybody kind of heard what I said on Saturday. This is something that is very near and dear to me because I am a police officer. My husband is a police officer. I have plenty of friends that are police officers. And the most important thing is I respect the law, period. Before I was a police officer, once I'm done being a police officer, I will always respect the law. Again, I will never say that I support a bad apple. And I know that's very cliche, but I will never support someone who goes above and beyond their duties as an officer to gain any type of benefit or to do anything illegal. I do not support that. I will not support that. That is not who I am as a person ever. Wrong is wrong, period. The reason I say bad apples is because I have worked in this job for 24 years and I know hella good officers. I'm talking about officers that will put their self on the line and they wouldn't think twice about it, period, for people that they don't know. And I know people, I've been back to work a little over a week now. And I will tell you that a lot of those people are still, with everything that has happened, still have that drive. When that officer got shot on Saturday morning, it comes out as everybody available, go, because they were shooting at the police. It was that one plus other shots raining out towards the police. And when I tell you that I know officers who have 20, 25 years on, etc., when I tell you they were there, there was no stopping. There was no thinking about it. They were there. They were in it. We're here. Like they literally ran towards it. So when I see that, that makes me super proud of what we do, even though people, and I know not everybody, I know that the media caters to this kind of nonsense and they try to create this image of how the police are so hated. I will say this, excuse me, that has never, those moments when things are happening, those are the moments that I live for, literally, that I live for. Because it doesn't, when we are running to help somebody, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what sex you are. All that matters is that you need help, and we are going to be there for you, period. It doesn't matter if you're a police officer or not. None of those things matter when someone is calling for help. So I will say this. I know that there are people who do have like a bad taste in their mouth because of the bad reputation media portrays police officers. I was sitting in my squad car, and a gentleman who's running comes up to me, and then he says, "Excuse me, officer, can I talk to you?" And I said to him, "Sure." And then he says, "I'm a Christian man." He's like, he was an elderly man. He's like, "I live 2 blocks away. I come to run in the park." He's like, "And with everything going on in the world today, I promised that the next time I saw a police officer, I was going to pray for them." And he asked me if he could pray for me. This man, literally in the middle of a boulevard, like a very busy boulevard, prayed for me and said the kindest things ever, and said to me, "You are not alone. I don't ever want you to feel like the world is against you, because there are so many of us that love you guys and appreciate what you do." When I tell you, that literally like made my day. That's how my day kind of started. It was towards like early in my day. That evening, same day, my last job before going home was a domestic. This person, one of the father of the boyfriend, was very upset. He was very drunk. We wound up talking him down. At some point, we had to put him in cuffs and call for an assist car because he was saying that he didn't care. He wanted us to kill him, etc. So we put him in cuffs for his protection and our protection. We wound up being able to talk to him, calming him down. The mother of his child and her mother were there. And the mother at the end, once we got everybody to calm down and he went on his way and things got solved, she came up to us and she said, "Excuse me, I'd like your name and your star numbers." And I said, "Sure." And she's like, "No, it's not for anything bad." Not that I thought it was, because we never had an issue with her. But she says that you guys are here going above and beyond. We literally walked through alleys looking for keys where he threw the girlfriend's car keys. Just to kind of calm things down, get him on his way, her on her way. So she just said, "I want to write your boss and tell him how amazing you are." Now, mind you, this was a Black woman. Her daughter obviously is Black. Her son-in-law is Black. And she literally said, and I actually have this on camera. She just said she wanted to thank us, that we get a really bad rap, and she wants us to know that people love us. And that she, when I tell you that she is super emotional, if I could download that clip so that I can show you guys that what I'm saying is 100%. This all happened to me within one day. So that being said, I was super stoked, and I thought, you know what? Because sometimes you see the news, and I'm speaking for myself. Like, I see this and I know that people hate us, and I know that people are shooting us. I know that people hate me simply for the uniform that I wear so proudly. So that just kind of literally, and sometimes those things kind of stick in your head. I'm thinking, like, especially getting that phone call. My mom is worried. Are you okay? What's going on? Like, I hear this all over the news. So it kind of makes you think, like, damn, like, maybe it's time to go. When I tell you that God has always been good to me, and I'm not the most like super religious person, etc., but I needed to hear those words that I heard on that day to give me the courage to face whatever comes forward. Like, I can't even explain it. Like, I cannot even explain it. I wish I had that footage right now, but I didn't think of downloading it. I was already really late. Our sergeant was kind of trying to rush us out, but I wish I had that footage, to be honest. It was super dope. Oh, are you guys ready? Okay, no, they're not ready. John Tisha and Chris just popped on the screen, but they're not ready. So just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. So that being said, what do you feel about police getting killed? Do you believe, we'll start with you, Austin, do you believe that there's a war on police officers?
Oh, absolutely. And I would say that 100% just because of the fact I went to school for criminal justice many, many years ago. I graduated high school in 2011 and I went to college in 2014. And just 7 years ago, it was definitely a different climate, a different environment. Not to say that the changes weren't happening in the early 2010s, because my answer for when did it start to escalate was during the Obama administration, was when you really saw the slaughter of the Dallas police officers. I'll never forget that, and that incident. And that was, that was the tipping point. Hello, John Tisha and Chris.
Hey, boo, hey. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but during your monologue, I'm so
No, it's
sorry.
fine.
But it's so good to see your guys' faces.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Please continue.
I think that was just basically it to start off with. I think that there is. I think that you would be foolish to say that there is not an animosity, at least towards police officers, and the data would suggest that it's getting worse, that it's even getting worse to a point where it was last year. So if we're going to set another record this year, quite possibly. Again, I mean, I turn to the 7th mass shooting in this country in 3 months. That scares me. And I talked about it backstage a little bit with you, Chelly. I'll go into it later, where I believe that these people who that commit mass casualty events, they are now targeting whoever. If you are a police officer, and the animosity that's out there might very well be positioning these people to attack law enforcement. So we might very well be seeing more Dallas attack styled events. Of course, I pray that that would never happen. But when you look at these people coming out of the woodwork, regardless of what race they were, right? Regardless of what religion they were, the point is the individual goes to create a mass casualty event. Period. Full stop, right? So the question is the war on police going to escalate the violence that we see? And I think that the answer is yes. Now, how bad it is, I'll leave to everybody else to give their opinion.
I knew I was muted. I was like, shit, I'm muted. Josh, how about you? What do you think? Do you think there's a war on police?
My take is a little more complex. I do think it's a war on police, but I think it's more of a darker, complex issue to it, because I feel people are manipulating the police. The people in positions of power are manipulating police. And when you say phrases like positions of power, a lot of people, they get not turned off. I don't want to use that phrase, but they kind of get an alarmism type of vibe from that. But what I mean is politicians basically using grand narratives. Because if you look at it from a politician's point of view, right, from their perspective, they know with common sense, because these people are in these positions because they know how to play the game and they have common sense. They know they need police officers just as much as everybody else does, but they're out there spreading this narrative. The reason that they do that is because they're trying to demoralize police officers into the same political perspectives as them, and it gains them leverage. Because when you really boil it down, it comes to narratives. Without a narrative, you cannot have no political platform, and without a narrative, you cannot have people basically reacting to everything you say and every statement you make to gain you more of that political leverage. So I think it's more of the people that are in political positions kind of scapegoating police officers, but knowing that they still need police officers to gain political leverage, which is still a very dangerous game to play. Nonetheless, that's the level of of cynicism that's in politics right now, and I really don't think a lot of people really understand the magnitude of what is happening around them. I don't think people are taking it as serious as they need to be. I don't think people really understand the tactics that are being used. I don't think people understand the language, and I don't think a lot of conservatives understand how to get back into this game. Because if you look at this, I already see conservatives all over my timeline. 2022. I don't care about 2022. I don't care about 2022 right now. I'm trying to make it to 2022. I'm not worried about 2022 right now, man. You know what I mean? And that mentality, you're not going to win with that mentality. It's a lose-lose situation. It's either you want to play to win or you don't. But as far as the war on police, it is a war on police. The people that are doing this are promoting this war to not only gain leverage on one side, but ultimately hamstring police and kind of put them in a very, very tight position to just maintain that political dominance, which is still dangerous nonetheless. It's grotesque in my opinion, straight up.
Thank you for that. Chris and Jantisha, what say you?
Going first? Okay, I'll go first. If I'm following, so we're talking as far as the war on police, I think it depends on the week. I think most weeks right now, most days right now, it's what they want to see. And then when it suits them, that one day out of the month or a couple of days out of the year, then the police are the best thing ever. But I agree with what everybody said. I think it's about the narrative and what they're trying to push. But I think you guys all kind of hit, like, it's deeper. It's deeper than just not liking the police or trying to drive a narrative. I think it has a lot to do with the keeping us divided, keeping us in this mindset that keeps us emotionally attached. So that anger that they keep, because they're feeding us this stuff and it keeps us upset. Well, not saying us, but most of us, the other side of America that feeds off of this. So it keeps them engaged. It keeps them emotionally attached. And I think one thing that I've kind of been seeing with this whole thing is, let's say over the last 30, 40 years, what are we, 20? So let's say 40 years. So we'll say about the 80s. You've seen a change in culture. And I've said this before, like, you go back to music, it became more acceptable to show your disdain for the police. And as time has went on, it's been allowed. Like, we have so much freedoms that we're destroying ourselves. Like, you have the freedom to say whatever you want. Doesn't mean that you should, and doesn't mean that it should be acceptable in society. And I think that's the problem, is that we've allowed everything to be acceptable. Like, yeah, you can say fuck the police, but should we accept that? Should that be something that, we're like, hey, it's their right to say it. And I think when we start doing that, it just opens up a can of worms. And over the years, we've allowed, as a culture, as a nation, we've
Progressively more and more and more.
Yeah, we've progressively done it. We've taught our kids, or we've allowed them, because we don't really teach kids anymore. A lot of parents let other people teach their kids the internet, but the hate for authority. The schools are doing it, like, hey, your parents can't say nothing. So they start pushing back on any authority figure. Hell, if I tell a kid something right now going down the street, more than likely he's going to turn around and say something back to me. And that's because there's no respect for people. We're losing it. And then that goes into, well, there's that lack of authority. They don't respect it. Then taking the parents out. The parents don't really have rights. And then we have loose morals and loose laws. And what I'm getting to is, because we've taken this route, now the police, they're the bad guys, because they're trying to enforce laws. There's authority. And I'm not, because we all know, I like to think majority of cops are good. You have the few, the rare, that are bad.
They're upset because the police are the discipline and they don't want discipline.
Yes, I mean, in a
They
sense,
want to throw tantrums whenever they want, however they want, and they don't want anyone telling them that they can't.
yeah, exactly. And now that you have,
That's what came to mind when you were talking.
yeah. So now that you have that, like, I think that's part of the deeper problem. And I think as we're talking, like, because it's not just one thing. Like, everybody's got very valid points, and I think I mean, there's so much to it that's just one part of it. It's a society thing. And I'll be damned if you tell me anything or try to say I'm breaking the law, and then try to put consequences out there. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
You know what it is too, is it's the DA offices. And it's the way that our government has spiraled out of control. So I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm not that old, but I do remember the times when a big story needed to happen and a satellite truck needed to go to the location, and then you needed a TV crew, and that's how you would find out the news. We didn't have social media, we didn't have
Mhm.
right.
Yeah,
So
right.
so the problem is now there's no coordination. It's all spotlight. Everybody is fighting for their share of the spotlight. You saw that time and time again over the summertime with de Blasio and Cuomo and their big power struggle, right? This is what the issue is. Media and technology has affected the practice of communicating effectively with the American people. And I bring that up because I brought this point up earlier, Chelly, and I'll make it quicker than I did before, which was serial killers in the 80s and the 90s, right? If you go through the Night Stalker in California, the Unabomber who targeted universities and airports, you go to Jeffrey Dahmer, you go to Jack the Ripper, you go to the early 2000s, the Virginia Tech shooter, the Pulse nightclub shooter, the Aurora, Colorado shooter, right? None of them targeted police. None of them explicitly targeted law enforcement. Why is that important? Because criminals back in the day who did these sorts of mass casualty events, they got off on the hunts. They got off on the cold case leads. No DNA, no cameras. Today, if you commit a mass casualty event in this country, you will be caught soon, or your picture will be somewhere. You would have left DNA evidence. It's very hard today. That is also evolving when we look at our police departments. Now our police departments are not only have to deal with law and order on a regular day basis. Now they have to prepare for terrorism. They have to prepare for anything under the sun. So what the issue is anything that happens poorly in these communities, the district attorney's offices shields the blame to the police department. Well, it's the police department that's not doing their job. Don't cast the blame on me. Because they want that spotlight, because they need to get reelected. In a lot of places, district attorneys get elected. Not in my state. Josh, I don't think that's the way in Rhode Island either, right? That's typically a southern thing. You elect district attorneys, not necessarily in the north, but it's very important. If you're somebody who has to run an election to be a district attorney, and when you're in front of the public every single day, it's a lot easier to control the police department when you control the narrative. They do this a lot in Chicago, where the district attorney tries to muffle and this is my opinion, tries to muffle the messaging from the commanding officers of the police department. The police department will come out, they want to say something, but then the district attorney right after will say something that's the complete opposite of what they were trying to do. And why is that? It's because they all want a small piece of that spotlight, but guess what? The system doesn't work when the district attorney's office doesn't work with our police departments. The police department can arrest and put away as many criminals as they want to. But if the district attorneys don't decide to file the charges, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? You got a whole problem again. Now you're releasing thousands of people out of jails because of COVID. Why do you think we're having these crime streaks going up in the urban cities? That's what it is too. Not to be long, but it's the DA's offices for sure. They're the main issue out of all of this.
Yes,
Exactly. And I wanna just add to that. Like when you're talking about Chicago, so we have Kim Fox,
The honor.
and I would never use that word and her name in the same sentence ever. But so this is the thing, like people will say, well, why is the crime in Chicago so high? If you needed police, they'd be doing their job and blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, they are doing their job. They are arresting people. They are recovering weapons off the streets. They are taking all kind of weapons, not just like regular handguns. They're taking all kind of weapons off the street. They're taking drugs off the street. They are locking people up. And you know what's happening? It is a revolving door in Chicago. Literally a revolving door. So what you're saying is actually true. If you look at some of the shootings that we've had here just in the last couple of months, the people that were caught shooting someone, they were like on their third felony. They were on their third felony, like X felony. Why are you even out? Like, so what Austin is saying is dead ass. It is dead ass on point. Like, why are they out? And again, it is not people. Again, it's kind of like smoke mirrors, because you think the police are not doing their job because these people are just out, just run free. But the district attorney is not prosecuting them, or they're giving them slaps on the hand. It's literally a revolving door. So it does create a problem. Sorry, I just wanted to add to that, especially here. Yes, all kind, night in and night out. Yes, Di Woods is actually a police officer in Chicago. He works on the west side of Chicago in one of the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. So yes, I can tell you, he knows. He's working. Trust me, he is working. I check on him quite often, actually.
Well, thank you for everything that you do, sir. I appreciate it for sure in a tough city like that.
Absolutely. Can I want to add something to what Austin said, because I feel like it's very important to understand the complexity of some of these issues, because when you look at them deeply and you really start to understand the cynicism behind how people really manipulate and actually gain control of these grand narratives, there's a deep complexity to a lot of problems. So when you talk about the issues of policing, right? Let's say, for example, you have some people that have had troubles in the past with policing, your career criminals, and some people do make mistakes. We can all agree on this. But when people constantly see police getting blamed for things that they had no control over, when people see police getting attacked, when people see basically all this scrutiny and this pressure on police, any common criminal with common sense automatically starts to assume police are going to hesitate to pull us over now. Police are going to hesitate to engage because the police don't want to end up on the news like the last officer who was just doing his job and got scrutinized. So it gives them kind of an advantage. It creates an invisible friction between the officer having to do his job and just do a random traffic stop. Because then they also put in this other narrative on the other end of it. They got the videos online of the person that didn't want to give the cop the ID. It ends up turning into a struggle session. Something happens. Then they spin that into the narrative. So the complexities to a lot of these issues, it really does boil down to the media. And I think people, I don't care if you're center, right, left, if you have any type of logical common sense, if you have any type of just any morality at all, you have to put your bias to the side on political issues. And you got to be able to determine what is actually truthful and not jump to conclusions. And the thing with social media too, and I want to touch on what Austin said, is because with social media, people don't care if it's fake news. They want to rush to the conclusion to put it out there because they want those likes. They want them shares. So they won't hesitate to share that stuff. And it also creates another problem. So I feel anyone that really wants to keep this country intact, that is disgusted with what's going on, because I'm disgusted with what's going on. And I grew up in the projects, dude, and I don't agree with any of this stuff that I see. I don't like it. I don't approve of any of it. If anyone wants to start to get some type of normalcy back, we have got to get through to people that this is not a good road that we're heading down. This is a very, very, very dangerous path. It's a very dangerous game being played. And I think people are still in that mind frame where they're kind of shrugging things off. They're lying to themselves subconsciously in the sense of, everything will probably just work its way out. It's not going to work its way out. They're in full swing. They're not going to stop until somebody stops them or we derail them. So
Correct.
The reason why I wanted to touch up on what Austin said was because when you break down the complexity of things like that, from a political viewpoint, now you have to think of ways to get back in there. All right, so this is what they're doing. This is what they're using. This is what they want us to know. This is what they don't want us to know. How can we use what they don't want us to know and mix in with what they're trying to tell us that we need to know and gain some of that leverage back. That's the type of tactics that are getting played. They're Alinsky type tactics. They're very, very nasty tactics. And if anyone that's going to run for any type of political office, anyone that really wants to get some type of foot in back, you have to understand these tactics and you have to stop playing it back to a certain degree to get some of that public opinion back on our side, or we don't stand a chance. We don't stand a chance at all.
Hey, so Josh, you had said something a little while ago, and you were talking like, I'm not going to wait till 2022. And I'm with you on that. Like, we shouldn't have to wait for the next year. Because that's that, like, oh, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. We'll do it later. And then you never do it, right? We'll do it next year. We'll do it next year. We're going to start next year. We'll be more forceful. But we got to start right now. And for those of you that are listening, like, as conservatives, like, you don't have to do nothing big. You just have to talk to one person. And you have to, don't go off on the crazy conspiracy theories. You just have to point out, like, realistic stuff and be factual and logical. So when you're looking at the police brutality, okay, ask them those questions like, what led up to this? What was the story before that? And because when you start asking those questions and you talk to people, and maybe you might have to dig a little bit deeper and actually get to know, okay, well, what are your views? If you could get them to see that there's a lot more of us that are conservative in some of our, the way we live than they think, that's when you start changing the minds. Because that's what I've been doing when I'm having these conversations with people. Because one of my goals, you guys have probably heard me say this before, is like, I'm trying to convince more Hispanic Latinos in California that, hey, you're actually conservative, because they are. And once I could get them to come to that realization that they're there, then it's easier to have the conversation. And then we can talk about police or what's going on, because we have something in common. But I agree with, like, those things got to start right now. And then to what Austin. I don't know why I forgot your name, Austin.
I was like,
I'm sorry.
He was gonna get there.
I was. It was processing. I have so much stuff going on in the mind. Austin, you had said something, and it made me think about when police officers are interacting with people, right? I think people only see what's on video, because everything's being videotaped. They don't see when that police officer woke up 2 months ago and what he went through on that day, and then the next day, and every day since then. They don't know if the last 2 or 3 months have been a great 2 or 3 months. They don't know what these individuals have to deal with on a daily basis. And one thing I think of, and this is just me being honest and holding myself accountable and responsible for what I've done, right? So when you're interacting with people, because I am that kid that was out there talking about, if somebody told me something like, hey, you can't tell me what to do. Like, you ain't my dad. Like, first of all, my dad ain't even really here. And that's the only dude that probably could, and you ain't him. So you can't tell me nothing. I push back on authority. Why? Because it was something that was in the music I listened to. It was something in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And then when I look back on it, it's like, man, I did it to them. I never really got smart with the cops, because I always thought if I play it cool, I might get a better chance. So, but I've seen other people get smart with the cops, and it's like, man, if they go through this every day, like, I'm going to take it just home for a second. So, like, these cops in Stockton, Stockton's got a big game problem. Every day they're dealing with the same type of people. Every day, every time they go out to a call, that shit it's going to drain you. And eventually you're going to hit a snapping point like, man, they're law enforcement. They're here to enforce the laws that you're probably breaking. They're not here as the disciplinary people or the people that come out and, I would say disciplinary, but they're not teachers. They're not here to teach you how to be in society. They're or teach you about the laws. They're here to enforce them. And when I look at some of these cops deal, like, I've watched cops lately deal with some of these kids, and I'm like, man, they're dealing with somebody else's badass kids, because that person's not teaching their kid how to be a part of society. Now, these cops got to put up with them. Not saying all of them, but a majority, depending on where you live, like, that's what you got to do. You're putting up with somebody else's badass kids every day. Sometimes, and then those kids turn into adults. They go through this. Then that's where we take it home. Like, we've lost that home stretch. So, like, start teaching your kids how to be a part of society. Start teaching them, Hey, these are the common laws that are broken in this neighborhood. Like if you're in Chicago, hey, we got a big drug and gang problem. It's illegal. You can do time for that. I don't want you to do it. Like that stuff has to start at home, and it's not.
Right.
No, I agree. And then another thing is we were kind of talking about like with the police interacting, and Chris, you kind of touched on videos of when the police, you'll see like videos. First of all, what people are seeing are little clips. Like, do you like just think about this? I'm going to ask you, all of you guys, just think about it. You'll see these clips and yeah, it looks really bad, right? But did you ever stop and think what happened right before this? Why is it every time the news is showing me something, I'm always looking at the cop like whooping their ass or dragging them out of the car, or it looks like the cop is the aggressor, right? Every single time. Like, think about every video you've ever seen. It always starts when the cop is doing something that the world is perceiving is bad. Like, am I wrong? Like, it always starts at that point. You never see the guy like spit in the cop's face or smack the cop or push the cop or whatever. It always starts at the point where you see the officer either dragging them out of the car, tackling them onto the floor, or whooping their ass, whatever the situation is. The videos always start that way. Always. They never show what led up to that point, which I've tried to tell people repeatedly. Whenever there's situations involving officers, wait for the entire story, because you are going to get what agendas and the media can sell, because they are competing. Someone that earlier, who can get it out? Who can say what? Who gets the main story? And again, they're going to push whatever sells, whether it's fake or not, because you have never heard the media come back and say, like, oh, hey, yeah, we were wrong about this. The other day, I kind of showed a video too. It was called the Trayvon hoax. I don't know, Austin, I have not talked to you about it, and I've not talked to Josh about it, but I'll send it to you guys in case you guys haven't seen it. I sent it to John, Tisha, and Chris. Now, there were things about the Trayvon Martin case that started that I kind of knew. Once it went into trial, things that were disclosed, so those I knew. There was one thing that I did not know, and I was talking to John Tisha the other day, and she was like, yeah, like Chris knew a bunch of things about this case too, but he didn't know this one thing either. So the witness that was used during the trial against George Zimmerman, who was supposed to be Trayvon's girlfriend, on the phone with Trayvon at the time of the incident, was not Trayvon's girlfriend. It was actually Trayvon's girlfriend's half-sister, because Trayvon's actual girlfriend refused to testify in court against George Zimmerman. So did you guys know that?
I did not personally know.
So yeah. So now what would have happened if the witness had never been there? George Zimmerman would have never been, arrested.
When she was interviewed, the guy was leading her in the questions when he was recording it. She had actually already given her testimony. She avoided, and then finally she gave a testimony, but they didn't want the one that she gave, because it was the honest one where Zimmerman wasn't following Trayvon and where he wasn't the aggressor, among other details. And then when they actually recorded her testimony, she was being led, and that had been after she had been harassed for like a week into talking to someone. So it wasn't necessarily that she refused. They just didn't want what she had to say the way that she wanted to say it. So.
Right. She refused basically to lie. She didn't want to lie.
Oh, yes. Yeah. She didn't lie. And then,
right.
And then they led her, and then she just didn't want nothing to do with it anymore.
Yeah.
They
So
got her half sister.
correct. And this kind of leads back to how this war on police, that's what I'm going to call it, for lack of a better description, kind of started. Black Lives Matter came to life in summer of 2013. Trayvon Martin was killed in February of 2012. And if you remember, their whole Black Lives Matter, they're like, if you look them up, originally it said to combat police violence against Black Americans. They've recently changed it because I know in the summer we were doing shows, and every time I pulled it up, that's what it said. I just looked at it before I did my video on Saturday. It's been changed, and it talks about to fight basically any type of racism against Blacks. So it doesn't say police anymore. Because my thing was back then was, well, George Zimmerman was never the police.
He also wasn't a white man.
Correct. So do you guys remember hearing Barack Obama talk about George Zimmerman and how, oh, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. They had the $1 million hoodie march. Do you remember Hillary Clinton having all these mothers at the DNC?
Well, it's even worse that his own mom perpetuated all that shit.
Correct. And he was not raised by his mother. He was raised by his stepmother.
By
His last words to George Zimmerman was, "Tell Mama Alicia I'm sorry," which was a stepmom. And the mom and the dad capitalized on the murder of their son. Well, not murder. I think it was self-defense. If you look at the pictures and you look at the whole file of Zimmerman, like his nose is broken. He has lumps and bumps all in the back of his head. There were just so many things to that case. But my whole point, I don't want to get into the whole part of the case, but the whole point was that was the catalyst to where we are now. They took an opportunity, and it was kind of like what Josh says. They'll take something and they're not going to play clean. They're going to play dirty, and they're going to put all this crap and all these ideas in people's head to get what they want. And people do not want to, correct. They're going to politicize it. They're not going to look into it. Right after that, they came back to life in like 2015 with the death of Michael Brown. And then after Michael Brown was Garner. So all these kind of little things, and the way that it has continued to kind of go from a molehill to a mountain. This is why we are where we are now. This is exactly why we are where we are now. And one of you guys said it earlier, the police are being used. You know what? We are all being used. They're using white against Black. They're using Black against Latino, or they're using the police against everybody now.
The phrase that came to my mind when you were talking, though, was weaponized. They straight up weaponized these deaths. Like, that is sick. That is sick. It's demented. It's evil. It's like, well, what the hell? They straight up weaponized the deaths of these people for their own gain, for their own agenda, for their own plan, for their own war plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, I'm getting chills thinking about this like this. Oh my gosh, it's so gross.
So
gross.
So for me, right, because I wasn't like really political or anything, and I wasn't really into it, right? But Trayvon Martin, where it catapulted like a lot of the nation to, you know, where it is now with like this divide. So yes, I think it sent some people down that path. For me personally, when that case came up, and I was like, because the first thing I heard was like, oh, this police officer killed this young Black kid in Florida. And then I'm watching it on the news, and it's like, hold on, wait, he wasn't a police officer. And then I started, like, I seen a picture. Oh yeah, George Zimmerman. Was it Neighborhood Watch? I'm like, well, that's just an average dude. And this dude was Mexican. And I'm like, how's it? That ain't George Zimmerman. So I was waiting for the picture of the white dude. Like, oh, we messed up. this is actually George Zimmerman, and then have somebody like Austin look like Austin pop up on the screen and be like, oh, that makes sense. No, George Zimmerman looks like he didn't even resemble a white person because he's got strong features. I'm like, wait, something's not right here. And that's what took me. It was like, hold on, my eyes were opened a little bit. Not saying a lot, but a little bit. And then Michael Brown, they opened a little bit more. And as the years have went on, it's become so apparent that I'm like, man, and some people are still missing it. But like you were saying, like they weaponized it. I know Ben Shapiro has a book talking about like how to destroy America in 3 easy steps. I have it, never read it. But I had been thinking about that, and I think it's something that we're watching come true. It is how do you destroy America? Okay, you lose your nation, like anything that holds us together. So let's start just messing with the Constitution. Let's get everybody all jumbled up. So once you cause that divide amongst the people, we're good. The police department, not only are they going to be taken down, like we're taking them down from the inside within America. Like we're doing it. And people eventually are not going to want to be police. And I think that's a part of the goal, because if you're not, it's the easiest way, because you can't just get rid of police. So you got to find another way for it to destroy itself. Same thing that I feel like there's, with our military, they're slowly putting things into place that are, people just don't want to, they're straying away. Like they're having a hard time keeping retention of people. It's a slow, destructive path we're heading down. And I think it's for 2 reasons. One, either it's control of everybody, or it's complete destruction. Like either one person is going to be in charge, or we're going to have complete anarchy at some point. And I think, I'm not saying I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, but those are kind of, if you look at everything going on, I feel like that's the most likely ending point.
Isn't that what happened already though?
Is we're going to be heading in that direction.
Like, didn't we already get a taste of that though?
No, I don't think
over the summer.
No, I don't think so. The riots
I feel
were
like
not.
we did.
The riots are, to me, those are just riots. Like maybe you could say it was a starting point. Like maybe 10 years from now, you could say, okay, the riots were sparked it. But I think if you're going to say that was a starting point.
Over the last 4 years, though.
No, but if you're going to say what sparked us to this point, it would be Trayvon Martin. It would be that time era.
You mean the
spark
of it?
It definitely was.
But we're not there yet. I'm just saying that we're heading in that direction, and it's just we got to break at some point.
I feel like if it happens again, though, it's going to be like the last 4 years, but worse.
How? Yeah,
like all the crap that they gave Trump because they didn't want him in office, and all of the turmoil and all the chaos that was happening over the last 4 years. I feel like it's going to be like that, but worse. If they don't get who they want in office again. I mean, God forbid, like I don't want that to happen at all. But I mean, look what happened.
But that's the writing on the wall. Like that's also apparent. Like we've seen it. Like okay, I Trump voter, Trump supporter to an extent, right? But there's a lot of things I didn't like about Trump. But at the same time, like I don't want them to destroy our nation over Biden. Like yeah, he's falling down stairs, walking up them. But I still don't want to see anything bad happen to him. I don't want to see the nation get destroyed because of some political beliefs, but I mean, when it was done, it was done. Okay, Biden's our president. Let's move on, and then let's look and see what he's doing. But on the other hand, we all know this. It's the double standard. And I think that's where we're more accepting as if you're a conservative, you're like, okay, we're willing to put that pettiness aside and say, okay, he won. Let's move forward and let's see where we're heading with this. On the other side, they're like,
and then educate people.
Yeah.
In the meantime, point stuff out and try and wake people up.
Yeah, and that's where we go. But on the other side, if their guy doesn't win, it's like we've heard it. I'm not a big fan of Tamika Mallory at all. I think she's one of the worst people in this world because some of the things she's said, and I think she incites more violence or she incites a lot of violence in her words, and she calls for violent actions. But when she said we're going to burn this, they're going to burn everything down. That's not exactly what she said. But when she made that statement of burning the system down, to me, that's radical. And then I really started following her. And I'm like, this lady, she's very, to me, she's dangerous. I don't wish no harm on her, no ill. But that's a dangerous person. She's as bad as some big drug dealers in these major cities. they're doing damage. Hers is just, there's really no crime to it because she hasn't. It's just words, if that makes sense. She hasn't really called people to do it. Like she hasn't said, "Hey, you guys go burn this shit down," but she is saying,
She's encouraged
but
it.
she's encouraging it
in the words that she selects, and she selects them specifically.
She's doing what they said Trump is doing. He's dog whistling to his white supporters to go riot. Tamika Mallory, they all do it. So, but she's just she's up more up front, and hopefully won't get taken down with this. But she's black, so she can say whatever she wants because she can play she's got black privilege.
Well, you brought up something interesting there, Chris, which is that faction of her on the left. And I wrote this down. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I think it's important to bring it up, actually. She is no different than conspiracy theorists on the right.
Yeah.
That's very important here. And what I have been seeing lately is alarming, where I see people sharing things from our notorious Q, right, which we love, right, which is just crazy. Some of the things that are in there are just crazy. And if you believe some of the things that they post in there, I think you need to go get some mental health evaluation. The point is you have figures on the right. I'll give you another example of one. Alex Jones. Alex Jones, the man, ladies and gentlemen, that for years went on and said that Sandy Hook was a hoax. Okay? Now, I wrote this down because I want everybody to know this. At the end of 2019, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones was ordered to pay $100,000 to the father of one of the victims of Newtown. His lawyers called it rhetorical hyperbole that Mr. Jones now admits was wrong, but did not take responsibility. So the position now is that Alex Jones believes that Sandy Hook wasn't a hoax, right? Because it wasn't. And he's being sued in 5 other cases, by the way. This is a man that garners hundreds of thousands of followers and viewers. A man that did the same exact thing that the people on the left are doing today, which is clickbait, political pandering, mobilization of the ultra radical side faction of their party. If you watch Alex Jones, if you support what he's got to say, that's outrageous. Any man, let me give you this example, and I'm sorry because I feel really strongly about it. What if somebody, right after this mass shooting, just started saying that this was a hoax? Think about that. Nonetheless, in Sandy Hook, we were talking about children that were shot while they were sitting in a classroom. Not that the Boulder shooting was any better. The point is that what if that rhetoric was starting? Again, it's conspiracy theorists. It's wokeness on the left, conspiracy theorists on the right. And guess what? People in the middle, you know what they're going to pick? They're going to pick wokeness over conspiracy theories because things have to make sense. At least you can sit there and say, once upon a time, we had racial issues in this country. It's another thing to say that JFK Jr. is resurrected and is the Secretary of State. Give me a break. Sorry, rant over. But that's important right there. Again, people in the middle are going to choose wokeness on the left. They're going to go that way. Then these conspiracy theories on the right and making it seem like things are hoaxes or things that are there that aren't there. I saw Q today share online a thing of the Evergreen. Evergreen was Hillary Clinton's Secret Service code word. Well, just so happened there was a story about a ship that was named Evergreen and a nursing home burnt down that was named Evergreen. So therefore, she was responsible for it. And here is the Great Storm Awakening. I mean, if you believe any of this shit, you're crazy. That's the point of it. But guess what? The people in the middle that might say, yeah, the Republicans have a point. Guess what? They're not going to get there if we continue to sympathize with people on the right that think that this type of behavior and rhetoric is okay. That's my only point. Because you need to have some credibility. And again, people in the middle are going to choose wokeness over bullshit. Josh, you with me on that one?
Yeah. I actually, I'm glad you brought all that up because I think honestly, out of everything that's happening right now, I would have to say manipulation of narratives online, the videos, all the nonsense that just gets spread so fast. And you gotta think about it from this basic logical viewpoint of everyone gets their news from their phone. Everyone that's just ready made right there. All you got to do is take it out your pocket, look at it. You'll see everything trending. It's right there. So you can have people viewing content all day long. So that is definitely one angle. But what I wanted to touch on with a lot of this stuff is when you brought up how, I don't know if it was Chris that brought up, but he said she basically incentivized her supporters to commit violence without actually saying to commit violence. And she does. They do. Because they manipulate language. They add double meanings to words. They're very linguistically manipulative people, and they know how to do it very well. So that's one of the things that conservatives, especially anybody that just wants to get back to normal, has to start getting through to people. Because when I feel like when a lot of people say, well, why does everybody go along with it? Why does everybody lose their mind? Why are they rioting? It's because they're groomed to a point right now where they just want to hear what goes along with the narrative. That happens a lot on the left. So even when you're hitting them with facts, they don't care because it doesn't sound with what they're used to hearing. So that whole approach, that whole strategy, it's useless. You won't get anywhere with that because as soon as they hear something that goes against what they've been told to believe consecutively every single day, they will completely disregard it. So how do you get around that? I read this book. It's called Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. He taught Obama, Hillary. It's a gross book. He was a Marxist. He worshipped Satan. He was a radical. He was a psycho, but he was no dummy. He was very, very smart. He had goals. He knew what he was doing. And we're seeing some of that today because some of those people that he taught this to are doing this right now. So when you have a narrative, you already have another counter narrative. There's always a counter narrative to it. And I'll give you examples of it right now. And conservatives need to really stop really putting the pressure on the pedal with this. Education. A lot of parents ain't feeling education right now, but you don't really hear too much about it. You might hear it here and there, but you're not really hearing it to the degree that you should. Teachers unions, strong arm the children, wouldn't open the schools, not because of COVID. We all know it wasn't because of COVID, maybe to a degree, but not fully, because they wanted to gain that political leverage. They're in bed with the left. But parents are not happy. And now you got to look at from this other narrative vantage point. A lot of the left, their supporter group is young kids. They don't have children. You see what I'm saying? These are the things that conservatives, these are the games and the views that conservatives got to start having. So how do you put pressure on that? You continuously promote that message. And I'll tell you right now, my whole state is teaching kids critical race theory. Every single school within my state. I had to go down to my son's school the other day, and the superintendent basically admitted to me that they are. Right to my face. He said, there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do. That's basically what he told me. But parents don't know. So these are the things that we have to start doing to get people that are going along with that big grand narrative on the left to start questioning that narrative. Because if not, you're not going to get through them. They won't even talk to you. They will completely disregard anything you say, and we'll never get anywhere. We'll just keep spiraling down this dangerous path. And if you get to the point where you have two sides, people over here, people over there, they both have a very, very, very big disagreement, but neither side talks. What comes after that? You fight. That's where we're headed. That's exactly, there's no sugarcoating that. That's exactly where we're headed. And people have to really start trying to get through to people and using things that you know you could turn into a big issue, or you know you could use to get somebody to really open up their eyes. Not just give you their attention for a little bit. Really open up their eyes, like no way. Like really eye-popping shit. And start to get that public opinion back. Because I would rather, in my opinion, conservatives get some control over a really big, strong, powerful, grand narrative that's actually based on truthful stuff, education on our children, than win a lot of seats in 2022. Because even when we had the power, we couldn't really get a lot done because they still had that narrative. That's the ticket. And until conservatives get this down, until even everyday Americans get this down, we're just communicating with other people that might not really share the same views as you. We're not going to make any progress. We're just not.
I think you brought up that Rules for Radical 1. I just put that in my to buy list right now. I'm going to read that. But you brought up something interesting. So like these people that drive these narratives, whether it's, they're making the police look bad, or, I mean, we'll stick with that, like the making the police look bad, right? These people are not dumb. And I think you hit that one on the head, Josh. Like, these people are not dumb. They know what they're doing. And a big part of what they're doing is they're the smart ones pushing the bullshit to the people that aren't that smart. And I'm not saying that they're not dumb in a sense like, yeah, okay, you might be, you're making it through life, but you don't have the what's the best word? Like, not the common sense, but you can't filter out the BS. Like, you just don't have that. So they're looking for those weak people, and they know that if I feed them the right stuff, because they're not going to second guess it or they're not going to go look, they're never going to gain the knowledge. I could just keep feeding it to them, and I think that's like, because that's what I see happening. Like, these guys know what they're doing. Like Ben Crump. I mean, look at this guy with George Zimmerman and everything else he's been in. This guy knows that if he puts money in front of people, he uses the media to spit a narrative that's going to get people emotionally attached, especially right now with police. He knows he's going to keep them hooked in, and he's going to keep making money. Somebody else is going to be making money, and it's going to work because they can continue to spit the narrative, and nobody is any wiser because nobody really wants to look. And even if somebody puts it in front of their face, it's like that. What, you can take a horse of water, but you can't make it drink. Like, I could show you proof, but if you don't even want to open your eyes to look at it, then it's never going to make anything different.
The problem is too, Chris, is there is no platform in the GOP that includes anything but the economy. If we are talking about healthcare, the first conversation is money. If we're talking about immigration, the first conversation is money. Now, don't get me wrong. I talk about this on my shows a lot. We're over almost $30 trillion in debt. We need to figure out a plan by 2050, 2060. But the fact of the matter is, time and time again, and I'm sorry because I'm a Republican that'll call out my own party. Many like you guys will too. The platform isn't there. Once Trump left, his ideas and his path went with it. There's no plan. There's no immigration plan. There's no college tuition plan. There's no healthcare plan. There's no infrastructure plan. The plan that they have is stick my foot in the ground until 2022, divide and conquer, just like the left does. That's why I brought up Alex Jones. Q and Alex Jones and others out there that flamed this rhetoric, hateful rhetoric, by the way, hateful, spiteful, demonization, worse things, by the way, sometimes than you'll hear on the left. The point is, Chris, you hit it on the head. Everybody is vying for market share. Everybody is vying for a select number of viewers. But the point is some people are doing it to make a difference. Some people are doing it to feed their egomania. Alex Jones isn't a man that's in his right mind. If anybody respects Joe Rogan, who Spotify gave $100 million to, so clearly he must be in his right mind, right? Well, he's got a podcast, and he's had Alex Jones on several times, and you know what? Now he says he needs help. He was a good friend. He's gone off the wagon. There's other people like him. It's not just him. And it's Q that divides the party, that turns people into radicals. And radicals not in the sense that we love our country, radicals in the sense that our government is betraying us, that our government is not there for us, that there are too many secrets. Not to say that we don't have secrets, but again, what is the goal of that? The goal isn't to unify our party, to create a platform. There is no platform. That is why the Democrats won. And it really was just all about $2,000 COVID checks. $2,000 COVID checks would have won both of those Senate elections in Georgia. The problem now is the Democrats say, like on the border, this is what we want to do. Knock the $86 million that you want to, but guess what? It's something. They're doing something. I give it respect, honestly, because the GOP has not came up with one solution. All they say is we have a crisis at the border. Let's compare it to the Trump administration. Let's beat on the media, right? Not one solution. I haven't heard one solution of what we're going to do. They don't want to do immigration reform. They don't want to spend any money. So guess what? You're going to spend more money in the long run by not doing anything than coming to the table and doing something. And I'm so sick of the argument that it's just on the left. No, our party has stuck the foot in the ground and not done a damn thing. Nobody voted for the COVID bill, and guess what? It passed. It was going to pass regardless. So you know what? Do a bipartisan effort and vote for the damn bill. The Republicans have shown the American people today that they're not willing to move an inch. It's all about money. That's not going to work anymore because guess what? Americans are sick of the elite and the people that have money controlling the middle class in this country. So if our platform is all about money and all about not giving money here and not giving money there, which I agree, we need to cut back. But again, when you have a crisis like on the southern border and you don't have an idea and you knock the other side for doing at least something, come on now. We're getting ridiculous at this point. There's no leadership. I've said it for months. Mitch McConnell needs to go. Kevin McCarthy needs to go. Sorry, Chris and John Tisha. I know he's a rep out in Cali, but I'm sorry. He's got to go. They all got to go.
They've all done a disservice to California.
They just got to go.
You brought up something good. So you said, you had mentioned like radical national, right? Like nationalist, like being a nationalist doesn't mean radical, right? And this is where the play on words, right? So they change words. They know they can change words to fit different meanings, right? So
Did we just lose them?
Oh, sad.
Oh shit, we did.
They'll be back.
We did.
It's
I
that
like-
California service.
I like what Austin was saying though, man. It's facts though. It's big facts, dude.
While we wait for Chris and Chantisha to pop back in, I wanted to kind of just go a little bit to, I wanted to kind of touch just a little bit back on policing. Oh, wait, I think they're here. But let me pop them back on the screen. We lost you.
oh no, you didn't lose me.
My bad.
You didn't lose me. Somebody shut down.
I clicked the wrong thing on accident.
But it's all right. I'll finish later. I make my notes.
No, he was so good too. He was like, my bad.
He was on a roll. But
He
anyways, I
was.
wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, I wanted to show you guys this video, right? Because I think a problem with what's going on, as far as with policing, etc., is that a lot of this behavior in a lot of our neighborhoods is becoming normalized. And I'm going to say that because I want you to watch this video, and I will tell you, it is very graphic. So I am warning you right now that it is graphic. Okay. So that being said, I am warning you that this is graphic. There was a shooting about a week and a half ago. There were 10 people shot in Chicago at a party. So I'm going to have you guys watch this video. And then I'm going to kind of get the panel's reaction. I'll ask you guys one by one what you guys kind of think. It's not too long. It's only 2 minutes, and hopefully you can see it. And hopefully I shared my audio. If all of you guys can mute your mic, and I'll mute mine as soon as I could bounce back into StreamYard.
Come on, man. Bro, get up, man. Oh my God. They just shot this party up, man. There's like 4 people dead in here, man. There's 4 people dead in here, man. They just shot this party up. Oh God, man. This is crazy. Okay, go to the car. Go to the car. Go to the car. Yeah, she all right. She's gonna be all right. Don't go.
So what? So this was just a party and a party gone wrong.
It was a party, and somebody comes in and shoots up a party. I believe it was 4 people dead. I think it was 4 originally, turned out to be, I believe, 6. 10 people total shot in a party. Now, This is my thing. If you watch that,
I seen the hashtags. I was just asking.
Yeah. So if you watch that video, this is what I'm talking about. Now, this is Chicago. If you watch that video, you'll see this guy who's recording is totally unbothered.
Mhm.
Right.
He's totally unbothered. He's recording, right? And he's walking over people talking about, hey, they just shot up this party. You know, got his cell phone. Hey, they just shot up this party, blah, blah, blah. Now, mind you, if you look at the video, I watched it a couple times actually. If you look at this video, the woman with the pink hair, she's walking around. She's holding her drink within her arm. She never let it go. Never let it go. And my point is this is not to insult anybody. This is not to come at someone sideways. Myself alone, I was born and raised in the ghetto. I still live in the ghetto. Okay? But I will tell you this. If any of my children were at a party, I have 3 adult children. If any of my children were at a party and shots rung out and bodies are dropping, I promise you, my kids would be screaming, calling me, calling the police, getting the hell out of there. They would not be with their video cameras, walking around, holding their drinks, totally unbothered. So my point of this video is not to insult these people. My point is to show viewers that this behavior in certain neighborhoods is normalized. That's why these people do not have those reactions that anybody else would have, that say my children would have. They don't have that reaction. He's walking around, he's videotaping. The girl's like kind of up and down, and then she's got her drink, holding it on her arm. She never let it go. If I was in the middle of some shit, I'm dropping everything in my hands and I'm running, or I'm taking cover, or I'm getting the hell out until I know I'm safe. Like I'm on the phone with 911, hiding under a table or in a bathroom behind a toilet stall or something. But so my point again is, this is the type of stuff that police officers deal with. This is the type of things that they deal with. This behavior has become like, hey, it's just normal. This is what happens. And it is very sad because that should never be the norm. Let me just throw my video recorder on and walk over the dead people.
It's been like that though.
But that's what I'm saying. Well, the thing is that this was kind of, since this was very, right, it's very horrible. But since this was recent, I just thought it was a little kind of look into a window of things that I see on a daily basis.
Right.
I have done this job for 24 years. I have seen everything. Like I could see myself walking in and just kind of walking over and just being unbothered because that's how I function, right? So that I could get through the job. I've learned to be desensitized to certain things so that I can do my job.
Right. That's your job.
Correct. But to just be at a party with, you would think like if you're at a party, you know, you're with your friends and family, etc. I would not be that calm. And again, this is not to insult people or come at anybody. It's not about Black and Latino or white. It's nothing to do with that. This is again why we are where we are today, because this type of shit is talked about in our music. This type of shit is talked about on the news, on movies, everything. And again, I'm not saying that you can't show movies or you can't play certain music. I have a 17-year-old son. My son plays these crazy video games and he's a sniper and he's killing people and acting like a savage in the process of doing it. But I will tell you what, my son does not act like that outside of his video games. My son is an A student. My son has got a scholarship going to college. My son is doing what he needs to do. He knows that there is a difference between a video game and real life. And again, he knows those things because he has a strong foundation, because he has his mother and his father, and they have taught him from a very young age what's right and wrong. So again, I mean, like I've said it a million times, parents need to rise up.
Well, and
Parents need to rise up.
And here's the thing, though. It's like, that's human nature. That one of the hashtags on that post was WorldStar. And WorldStar has been around for years now. And it's because human nature over the years, like everyone has light and dark. Everyone, whatever they're going to feed more in their life, whatever they're going to focus on more in their life, whatever their environment is made up more of, that's kind of what their lens is going to be. And WorldStar is one of those things that people are attached to. It's like watching someone fall and laughing, and not because you're laughing because they got hurt, because when you hit your elbow or you run into something, like for me, I know that when I get hurt, sometimes my initial reaction is to laugh through the pain. And it's not because it's funny. It's just, that's just how I react. I laugh in pain and then I cry. I laugh and then I cry. And so I've noticed over the years that WorldStar is one of those things where it's a free pass. It's a free pass to record anything and everything. And then on top of society and culture, being the toughest is the coolest. Knocking people out and not getting knocked out is the coolest. It means you're a badass and nobody's gonna fuck with you, excuse my language. Those type of things, like focusing on those specific things, focusing on those certain things snowballs over time. And that's human nature. And the only way, again, is doing things like this. The only way to reverse that is to pump out light, to pump out truth, to pump out the moral foundation, and to encourage it, and to say why it's okay and why it's good, and why men can talk with their friends about what they're going through, and it not be a stigma, to be self-aware and it not be an issue, so that they don't, hold on to it and let it pile and pile and pile and pile and pile until it blows up. Like things like that. WorldStar is, like I said, it's huge. I've seen that hashtag, and that was like a straight up pass for anybody to just record bullshit, record violence, and it be okay over the years. And that's why you see shit like that too. Getting a free pass is that human nature. We need to feed the other wolf. We need to feed the other wolf within each person on a constant reminding basis, because this world is a dark world. And this is what we're going to be up against every single day of our life, all day long. And the only way to combat that is to be a bigger force of light. That's my piece about that.
Yeah, I agree. The thing, there was a couple things that popped out to me in that video. that I really wanted to touch on. One thing that you guys already pretty much pointed out was that immediately he went for the phone, and that just goes to show you that even in the midst of chaos and a shooting, someone's still thinking about them social media likes. That's a huge problem. That is a huge problem. So that right there is just a terrible thing. But when it comes to the hood, right? Now I grew up tough, dude. I've been to prison, all that. Been in bang outs, all that shit. I changed my whole life around. The thing with the hood is when you're addressing them and you're trying to talk to them about these issues, you cannot sugarcoat it. When I talk to my boys about the problem in the hood, I hold nothing back. I hold nothing back. When they're talking about police around me and they're like, oh, this white cop, this, I'm like, bro, we kill each other all the time. I don't hear you guys say shit. I don't hear you say shit. That's exactly how I talk to them. I tell them straight up, I don't hold nothing back. And I think that's one of the major problems when a lot of people try to talk is a lot of people hesitate instead of just spitting that real passionate, raw truth that people need to hear. If you're gonna be somebody that wants to speak truth and you want to speak facts and you want to open people's eyes, you gotta speak with some moral fervor.
Hold on, Josh. I can barely hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I don't think it's you. So someone talking in the background, or TV.
Can you hear me now?
Is it Ricky Chelly?
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to touch on, man. So first thing, he went for the phone. That just shows you that even in the midst of all madness, people still want to go for the social media likes. That is a terrible mind frame for society to have. But when it comes to the power of language, now, I was just giving you examples. When I'm around my friends, I got some friends that are real still gutter to this day. Like people wouldn't even look them in their face. They would cross the street. I be with them all the time. They know I supported Trump. They know I'm a Republican. I still hang with them all the time. When we have these discussions, I'm very raw with them. I know how to speak that language. And when they ask me, they're like, "Oh, why are you saying that?" I'm like, "Bro, I wouldn't be a good friend to you. I wouldn't be one of your right hand mans if I wasn't telling you this because this is the truth, dog." You know what I mean? That's the type of language we have to engage in as well. There's no it's either you speak with your back straight, you with some conviction, you know what you're gonna say, you know what the problems are, you know what your beliefs are, and you speak it. No hesitation, and you let people know what it is. And I get glimmers of hope from the conservative party with young ones like me. I've met a couple other young ones like me that are really expanding their mind. They're really starting to see some of these things, and it gives me a little bit of hope. But I really wish more and more people would get on board with how important it is to really understand the importance of language, because certain words, even how you say a certain word, they have the same meaning, but somebody could interpret it a different way. You know what I mean? Like I'll give you one more example on this topic. So when I'm debating my friends with topics like these, I do it in kind of a storytelling fashion. So I'm like, yo, we was just chilling the other day, right? Somebody got bodied over there. 2 people got bodied over there. Y'all don't care, right? Nobody says nothing. I said, but y'all will put everything on pause right now. If a cop shot somebody, didn't even kill him, you don't even know the story, but you're gonna react to that and go over there because somebody put a meme up on social media. I'm like, y'all don't see the problem. You know what I mean? I'm like, y'all got 4 or 5 baby mamas out here. You know what I mean? Struggling with out here acting reckless. And I try to give them I try to tell stories so that way they can understand the language and hopefully see what I'm trying to get through to them.
Agreed.
Instead of trying to prove them wrong. That's pretty much that. I think that's really, really important, man, because I see a lot of people getting into debates with friends now and even people online, and everybody goes right for the jugular. Everybody goes right to just dismantle them. And I do it sometimes too, man. I'm not gonna lie. I do it very often, but I'm trying to tone back a little bit. Like, what's the purpose of dismantling somebody and just completely trying to embarrass them and prove everything that they're saying is wrong when you're trying to get them to agree with you? You know what I mean? So that's another thing that I think a lot of people really need to touch up on, man, is paying attention to these narratives, trying to, practice different techniques to learn how to really articulate it to people, to get them to open up, you know what I mean? And get people to get some motivation to actually be active, more active than they are now on politics. And even though everything is politicized, the difference between conservatives and the left is when the left has an issue, it's the entire left's issue at that moment. With conservatives, you'll have one group of conservatives talking about education, and you have another group of conservatives talking about this. We need to start getting things done. Line them up, put them in a row, get these issues, and just topple them one by one, and just start getting
Together.
some traction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Agreed. So sorry, you guys. My husband, he's deaf, I guess, and he has to listen to the TV really fucking loud. That's why I put the headphones on, but you can still hear it. So I apologize for that. But I brought the screen up just to kind of show you guys. Hold on, I got to get out of this big screen for a second. Hold on. All right, so I brought this up just so that I can show you guys a little bit what I'm talking about in regards to law enforcement line of duty deaths. So this is the Officer Down Memorial page. I did talk about it before. It will give you this, this actually was just updated because when I looked on Saturday, it wasn't this updated. But so these are the statistics so far for 2021. I believe it's still a little bit off, to be honest. These are the officers that died in 2021 in the line of duty and why they died. This was an automobile crash, and it gives you their name, where they're from, etc. So we are so far at 79. There are about 45 from COVID. Just so that you know, there are 13 by gunfire, motorcycle crash, 1 was stabbed, 5 were struck by vehicles, 5 were assaulted with vehicles, 2 were assaulted and died later from their injuries, 13 by gunfire. We are only
Right.
in March.
Right.
So just so that you guys know, you can always go to this page and you will find it. It'll tell you exactly what they died from, their age, their everything. It'll give you everything. Here is the fatality statistics. We are up, and it keeps going up, up, up. By gunfire, we're 18% higher than last year. And again, we are only in March. So just so that you kind of have a look at what we're talking about and what I'm talking about, this is something that is very near and dear to me. And like I said, I have a husband. I have plenty of friends. And again, I don't support shitty people whatsoever at all. Just so that you know, I don't care if they're police, I don't care who they are, politicians, which is why when Austin brought up, what's that guy's name you brought up? I forgot his name. Chicken Nugget Brain.
Are you talking about Alex Jones?
Yes, sorry. I forgot his damn name. But this is the thing, like what I love about this is like, I will always call a spade a spade. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right. I don't care if you're on the right side of law enforcement or the wrong side of law enforcement. If you're right, you're right. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. There was one other point you guys were kind of talking about stuff earlier, and I wanted to bring it up. This is, let's see if you guys know this. If there's a certain percentage of incidents in which if you comply with the police, you will have no problem. Does anybody know what that percentage is? If you comply, there will be no issues. Does anybody know what that percentage is? I'm going to mute my mic because my husband's TV talking.
It's the same survival rate as COVID.
It's close. I think it's in the mid 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I looked into something like that. I think it was in like the 80. I think it was almost 90. I want to say it was like 89 percentile around there. It was something. It was like almost. It was like I think an officer was talking about. He said out of all, it was like millions of interactions, dude. Almost all of them were positive ones, except for the interactions that had some type of altercation or other issues that were related to it. But it was pretty much predominantly all smooth.
Okay, I'm going to surprise you guys all. The percentage rate, if you comply with the police and everybody walking away okay and unharmed, is 99%.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't.
Well, Chris won
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
under, right? The Price is Right. You're over. He's under, so he wins.
Survived the way to COVID.
Actually, Jennifer won. She's at 98%.
Jennifer gets the prize. Congratulations, Jennifer. But that is miraculous, isn't that? That statistic. That is.
Jimmy
that's
got it.
important.
Jimmy got it. Jimmy was live with me the other day, but he's right. So
That's not fair.
this is an accurate number. It is very accurate. Anybody who wants to prove me wrong, feel free. But it is accurate. And you know what that tells you? Comply with the police. Like, I'm sorry, it's just kind of funny to me because I'm like, you would think that it's simple, right? Look, I'm not saying they're always right. I'm not saying they have. If you've had your own situation, I'm not trying to take away from your personal experience with the police, but a lot of times you find these things where it's not their own experience. They're talking about someone else's experience because someone said this and this and this happened. Again, the numbers do not lie. 99% of the time, if you comply with the police, everything will be fine. And I will say, I tell my children, I'm the police, their dad's the police, and I tell them, you respect, you follow what they're telling you to do, and there's no problem. And if you do happen to come across one of the bad apples in the world, then guess what? I will take care of that shit when we're done. Once you're gone and you're free and you're home, what have you, we'll take that shit to court. I'll handle it the way it's supposed to be handled. Period. Again, my point in bringing that up was it's just common sense, right? Do what they tell you to do. If they're
I find it amusing. I find it amusing that that people will also compare not complying with a police officer in an aggressive situation or a situation that has weapons or whatever to not wearing a mask comply. But in all the videos that I've seen of anyone getting arrested because they weren't wearing a mask, everyone's still alive though, because no one's pulling out guns or knives because they're being arrested for not wearing a mask. So how is that the same?
Yeah, I want to throw in something that I started thinking about when you were telling me those statistics. So I started asking myself, well, why? Well, why do people not comply? Or why do certain identity groups that they say don't comply, why are they not complying? And as you were speaking, I was listening to what you're saying, but I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, it's simple. If you got this constant race baiting going on, right, and you're telling everyone that the reason you're getting pulled over is probably because you're black, it's probably because you're a minority, right? You're telling them that, then you're promoting that, they're killing innocent minorities all the time. There's already kind of a built-up tension that's already there. So then I started asking myself, well, how could you? I'm not a cop, so I'm not trying to say anything, but how would what goes through an officer say, like, how would you diffuse that situation? Like, say you go, it's a regular routine traffic stop. Pull the gentleman over. He's not trying to give the ID. You're not going to just be like, all right, you know what, go. You have to get the ID. What would be the best tactics to try to calm that situation down? Because I've seen some officers that handle it really well from what I've seen online. But then I've also seen officers that were kind of using the language like, listen, if you don't give me the ID, we're going to have to cuff you up and stuff like. So I seen this one officer, and he was really good with his words. And he was like, listen, man, he's like, I'm not profiling you. He's like, I'm not trying to bust your balls. He's like, I'm only doing my job. He's like, you give me the ID. He was like, everything checks out. You're free to go. I hit right, no tickets, no nothing. He worded it really, really smoothly. And it went smooth because the kid was not trying to hear it. He wasn't trying to roll the window around, none of that. So I think that's a major, major problem. I don't know if law enforcement teaches those tactics. Like, I don't know much about what goes on in like the academies or what they teach, because I've been seeing a lot of like talk of like de-escalation tactics, but I don't know if that's like in the heat of the confrontation with the suspect or the person that you're in the conflict with. I don't know if they teach do they teach that in law enforcement? They teach like how to verbally try to like.
Yes. So
persuade suspects to calm down to a degree.
yeah, so especially now, like with everything going on, they've been focusing on like use of force, changing it up, de-escalation, always assess yourself at whatever you're doing, because maybe at one point it's here and then it goes down here, so readjust, etc. But I will say this. Not everyone is cut out to be the police. Period.
No, they're not.
So Josh, Chris, I know Chris is from the hood too. I'm not sure if Austin's from the hood, but I know
He is. He's from Worcester.
I
He's
was
from Worcester. He is.
yeah. Well, I was actually born in Southbridge, so that makes it a little bit better. Ghetto.
I was like, so I think that this is the thing, right? We can go like even to this day. I'll go where I'm probably 10 minutes from where I was born and raised. I can go there. I don't go there with my gun. I could walk in there and I can have conversations with people, no problem. And I'm not out of place. I'm not a sore thumb, right? There's other people who aren't about that life, period. They can't go in there and have those conversations. I think that even if we take the police out of it, certain people have good people skills. You have that lingo about you. You can relate to somebody. You can see something in them and you're like, I got you. Like, I know how to talk to you. I can meet you at that level. Not everybody has that. And I think that there's not enough class time or reform to teach somebody who's never, ever been in a ghetto how to speak that lingo. That's just my opinion. Yes, we can de-escalate. We can talk to people. And I think, again, I teach recruits. And my first thing to recruits is always treat people the way you want to be treated. Period. Treat people the way you want to be treated. A lot of times it will work. There are some times when you go there and it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, that person is not having it. But for the most part, if you remember to treat people the way you want to be treated or the way you expect your family to be treated, you'll be fine. Period. That's the one lesson I tell my recruits. If you take anything away from our 8 weeks together, because I get them 8 weeks at a time, I want you to take that away. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and you will have more positive outcomes than negative ones. So they do, to answer your question, they do. Do I personally think that that's going to kind of work? No, because there's some people who they're not just good communication. They have zero communication skills.
Yeah. See, I understand, because when you're a police officer, I mean, you can't really take the time to try to make sure you word things or try to, be on a reasonable, engage in reasonable dialogue when you don't know if the suspect's going to pull out a gun. You don't really know any of those things. So I do see it to that degree. But as far as like, so when you say communication skills, that's a very important thing. But also, if you look at it like this, right? If you look at it from this viewpoint, when I talk to people that are really hard to talk to, I don't try to get my talking points across. What I do is I try to get them to explain their talking points to themselves, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, well, how will that work? Like when I get into the equity disputes, I'm like, all right, well, you guys have a bunch of identity groups over there. Well, which identity group comes first? Well, how are you gonna get that? How are you gonna get equity across the board for everybody? Are you gonna take from somewhere? Are you gonna give it to another group? Are you gonna prevent the group from going forward? So I think I found that way of trying to communicate with people who are really, really hard and stubborn to communicate with to be very, very, very effective with a lot of people. I'm talking people that are impossible to talk to. They don't want to hear it. They want none of that. So I think if people try that out to a degree, see what kind of results they get with that. Because I was at a GOP thing the other day for somebody that announced they're running for Congress in my state. And he said, I don't care if you get through one person on the other side of the aisle. That one person that you get through could get through to 3 other people. Mm-hmm. So even if you got to put in that work to get through to just one person, explain certain other viewpoints, and you do get through to them, they can get through to somebody else. So it does make a difference. And these small tactics, whether it's from police work, I don't really want to throw it into the whole police work thing because I'm not a cop. I don't know. I can only imagine what you guys deal with out there in Chicago. I don't even want to imagine. So I'm not gonna throw it in. But as far as just overall, I think people really need to just start paying attention to just little tactics to just not try to win an argument, not try to lose an argument, just try to get people to think about the things that they're actually advocating for. Because I've met numerous people that advocate for a whole variety of things and they can't explain one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think it's just, there's so many, the complexity of all the problems going on right now, it's like, it's almost nauseating to a degree because sometimes I get so discouraged. It's like, it's so much. But if we don't start trying to figure out certain ways to try to get some of this flow to go into the other direction, I think it's game over. For real. I think it's straight up game over, man.
So I put this on the screen. I share this usually every time I talk about anything to do with police. This is March to date, just March in Chicago alone. Just March. This is just for 1 week, the 21st through the 20, what does it say? Shit, I can't see from here. This is year to date from the January 1st until today. We have had
118. Oh, sorry. Year to date, shot and killed 118, shot and wounded 533, total shot 651, total homicides 124 year to date.
and we're not even through March. This is Chicago.
So that's the issue, right? The issue is you can't solve an issue unless you admit that there is a problem. And this isn't just Chicago. This is New York. This is LA. This is other big cities that have not begun to understand. See, this is where the real racial inequality is in our country. And it's not racial inequality. It is wealth inequality. The reason why the man, going back before, was so comfortable with his cell phone going around in the building was because in certain neighborhoods, the idea is that it is far more likely you will be successful selling drugs, running guns, being on the streets, than actually having the chance to go to a school, go to university, go get a career because of the perpetual years, decades and decades of no opportunities. So if you are the 18-year-old young man on the stoop, whether you are white or whether you are black, because it doesn't matter if you are poor, you're either going to say, well, I have no chance to get into college and I don't want to work a minimum wage job. I would rather sell drugs or to join this gang to make money because one, I'm not alone, I have camaraderie, and two, they're going to take care of me better than A, the government will, or B, a minimum wage job will. So your police interactions that are negative predominantly are with the people that are running in criminal activity, gang-related activity. This is why the argument is correct. If you create more gun laws, criminals don't follow gun laws. A lot of guns come illegal off of the streets. But the fact of the matter is our party, the Republican Party, or at least my party, will not admit that there is a wealth inequality when it comes into these larger cities. Another point I wanted to make is that in certain police departments in this country, it has been factual that they did pull over black drivers more than white drivers. That happened in Flint, Michigan. Now, the argument is, of course, that Flint, Michigan is over predominantly 80% black, but still, the people were pulled over at an alarming rate. We do have pockets of areas of trouble in our country. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is we lose the argument in our party when we sit there and say nothing, when we say doesn't exist whatsoever. It was only 28 years ago that Rodney King was beat down in the streets of LA by the LAPD. These things people still remember, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't something that was 50, 60 years ago, although we have come a long way. Again, the fact of the matter is that it is wealth inequality. Let's pick these young kids up out of poverty, or at least get them a chance to get into a public university or to a community college. Let's give them the idea and the vision and the pathway that they don't have to go into the gangs. Unless you change that, you'll never fix the issue. If you do change that, you fix the issue. That's the main thing right there. And again, it is Republicans running away from the issues because nobody on this side in power elected would say that. Nobody would say, let's actually boost these young people out of poverty in Chicago. No. The issue is the crime. Well, guess what? The crime is perpetuated by young people not believing they have opportunities. Because if you gave that young person the opportunity to get a career, to get a job, to make his own way in this life, they wouldn't sell drugs, they wouldn't run guns. Guarantee you that. But if you don't allow them to have an opportunity to believe they have a chance to begin with, then all they're going to do is the same thing they've seen for years. Their mother, their father, their brothers, their cousins running drugs, running guns, little, side dealings, whatever. That's the point. We need to give people opportunities. And it's not the fact that, well, why do they deserve it? It's because of the fact you never fix the issue unless you fix the problem. The problem isn't the crime. The problem isn't shootings. The problem is uneducated, young, black and brown and white men and women not going to school, not getting a career, not getting an education, staying in the same place, relying on government benefits, and engaging in criminal activity. That's my take on it. You got to fix the issue.
Absolutely.
My question for you is this: how do you do that?
So you need to, like I've said before, Shelly, if I was a top leader in the Chicago Police Department, I would be I'd be demanding extra resources. I would be going to the hot spots one at a time in my districts. I would be letting it known, listen, this shit's not going to happen anymore. We're here. We are here. Then it becomes to the city. And they can get this with federal dollars. So this doesn't even have to come from Illinois. This can come from the Fed. Joe Biden can do this. We are going to create programs much like Donald Trump did in opportunity zones, but not just for businesses, but for young people to get into trade school programs.
Yes.
To also use those people, right, once they get an education, to say, listen, because the government gave you this, now maybe we can use your skills to use for infrastructure projects. Guess what? Now you did two things. Now you created more workforce in the construction industry, which is dying out, and you got a young person off the streets into work. You need to continue to do that. You need to continue in the high school systems, and it starts with public education too. That's terrible in the larger cities, but you need to create internships. So the kids in 12th grade, you want to be an auto mechanic? We're going to send you to a trade school. You want to be an LPN or an RN? You want to go to nursing school? We'll give you the head start. These are the things we should be doing. 12th grade is not enough in this country anymore. I personally would be in favor. Now, this is something no Republican would ever say. I'll say it because I don't give a damn. I would be more than happy with the beautiful $200 million schools that we have, especially here in the Northeast. Josh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Brown.
I'd be more than happy with a 13th and 14th grade. Guess what? You're going to get your associates and it's going to be covered. So at least you have a chance to get into the labor market with some kind of skills. And if it's not that, then it's trade school and technical programs. We can do that at the high school level. There is things that you can do. But again, the GOP, it's money. We don't want to create the resources. We don't want to create these programs. But guess what? You have to. Because that's never going to fix the issue. You're never going to get the shootings down. You're never going to get the crime down. Because again, for every one or two that gets out of the street life, you've got 10 or 20 that are more than willing to get in. Because guess what? Drug and street life pays better than the government and minimum wage.
Yep. I agree. I agree with the trade school thing, major, man, because I feel like college and universities. I think me and Shelly had this discussion a while back, and I'm not knocking universities or colleges at all, but I feel like it gets pushed way too much on children and especially teens overall, because that's the only message they hear. You got to go to university. You got to go to a college. And if you look in the streets right now and you look at a lot of these protesters that are looting and out there losing their minds. A lot of them went to universities. A lot of them went to these colleges, and they have no
I already told
opportunities
CJ.
after that.
He
And
knows
now
what to
they're in
do.
debt. They don't know what to do. They're filled up with all this animosity now, and it's a very, very nasty perpetual cycle. And I think the problem with the GOP, and I'm glad you called that out, Austin, is that it's not. I think it's the money to a degree, but I also think it's that they don't feel like they should have to put the money forward to fix problems they didn't create, and that's a major problem because those are the areas that you want to actually win elections in. So
Right.
even if you're not responsible for creating those problems, and you're just going to point the finger and be like, look at those areas, they're all run by Democrats. Go in there and fix that Democrats area for them
Mm.
and take it over. You know what I mean? Like do something about it. Just because you're not the one to blame for these issues, address them. So I agree with you 110% on that. 110%. And then if you look at it from this angle, right? Those issues been around for a very long time. Would the Democrats benefit if those issues were fixed? No. And that's the reason why they don't get fixed. Because without the racial inequalities, without their whole argument of lack of opportunities, all those crises, they have no platform to run on. And that's why they never get fixed, because they don't
Exactly.
want them to get fixed. And so I agree with that 110%. I think that's the best approach. Trade schools, I've been screaming that for the past 3 years, man, about trade schools. It's like they don't hear it. I don't know what's wrong with the GOP, man.
And again, I make the point that, and I know this because I went to school for criminal justice. I did a paper, a long paper where I talked to a lot of opioid addicts for my thesis, and it's no different speaking to somebody who is rifled with addiction and somebody who is strung up with the wrong crowd. Because again, the idea is that people do what they do just to hurt people. But guess what? The kid that grew up dirt poor with an addicted mother, a father that was never there, that never had the opportunity to get ahead, isn't ever going to think that he can be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't ever going to think that he can be a lawyer. The GOP would like everybody to think that those cases don't exist. And if they do exist, then they're the fault of the individual. No, it is not the fault of a child. That a child is brought into this world ill-prepared. That is the fault of the parent. It is the government's responsibility to provide to those who cannot provide to themselves, especially when we are talking about student loans. They're not giving out anything for free. You are selecting these people in the high school areas and telling them early, you can go to school. These programs will be here. These grants will be here. I promise you, if you want to go to school, we will make it happen. Do you think that's happening in Chicago public schools? Absolutely not. The idea is the ones that want to go, that show it, will help them. And the ones that don't, they're already gone. Don't pay any attention to them because there's too many, right? There's not enough resources. That's your issue right there. We ignore 60 to 70%. And these people, by the way, can't read, they can't write, they can't do math. I'll give you statistics from my city in Worcester, Massachusetts, how almost 55% of the kids are not meeting the expectations for the MCAS, standardized testing.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is we are not preparing the young people to go forward in this country. The days, again, of 12th grade education are no more. You cannot realistically create a career. And I know that there are cases of people that never went to school. They dropped out of high school. They become billionaires. They are part of a niche community, much like the young people in this country who think that if they twerk or they rap or they do something stupid, they're going to get notoriety. Although some of them do, most of them don't. This is the issue. We need to build up the new younger generation. And guess what? Maybe they will appreciate the other side of the party, our party, if we actually give them some attention and say we care about investing in your future. And what are the Democrats going to say? No, we don't want that. Of course they're not going to say that. Our party is just as much to blame as the Democrats because, again, there's no heart, there's no soul, there's no care. Again, the position is it's not our issue. Josh, you said it perfectly. That is the position with Chicago or any Democrat city. It's not our issue. We didn't create it. Well, guess what? You want to complain about the issues that perpetuate off of the problem, but you don't want to actually fix the issue. That fixes the issue. Get the kids into trade school programs. Get them a community college degree. Get them working in their local communities. Get them working with people like Jelly, who can show them. hey, this is what it's like to be a police officer. Maybe I don't know if Chicago police does this already, but maybe they should create things in the neighborhoods to say, if you want to do a ride along, if you want to learn what it's like to be a police officer, this might be helpful. It might actually inspire. I bring it back to this. A child who grows up in a household that is poor, right? Government assistance, addiction, they are not going to believe they can be whoever they want to be. I'm sorry. They weren't given the tools. You need to give people the tools. You need to show them that, listen, the pathway is here for you. And for so many years in these cities, it has not been there. And again, it's not a racial thing anymore, but before it was. Again, Rodney King, just 28 years ago, was beat down in the middle of the street by the LAPD. People still remember that. We have gone a long way, but to turn our backs and to pretend that none of the issues that have happened in any of these cities were because of race to begin with, we're lying to ourselves. So although we need to switch the conversation from this is a racial problem, no, this is an wealth inequality problem that stemmed from racism. Absolutely.
Hey, so I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but here's the thing, right? So one, I 100% agree with you with the GOP stuff. I do think that the GOP, they call out a lot of stuff. Like they'll point something out, but there's no solution. So like the border or immigrants, yeah, they'll tell you let's not do it, but there's no solution. So I'm 100% on board with you. And a lot of stuff you just said when it comes to having more programs, trade schools, I'm with you. But I think as you're saying this, for me, like looking around the communities that we live around in California, right? I hear you, but you can throw all the money in the world. You can put all the programs, and not saying that it doesn't help, because it does help some, but that's not going to fix it. And I think that we don't want to take the same route as the Democrats. We don't want to push money. Yes, we want to have affordable trade schools and whatnot so these kids can go into, but I'm not saying this is everywhere, but just from what I've seen being around here, I think the problem is deeper. You can try to show these kids that here's a better life. You can take them on ride-alongs. I think if you want to start seeing the change, so things like you're suggesting actually work, it goes back to the OGs in these neighborhoods, the people who've been there, the mentors. Like you got to have those people have to come out, whether they come out of prison or you step up and you go out there like, hey, I've been in the hood for 30-something years, 20-something years, whatever it is. Like, you know, I've seen some stuff like those people need to change their direction and start coming back to these kids, whether you're white, brown, black, whatever it is, because you're 100% right. It's not a racial thing. It's a wealth thing. And people don't want to see that because that doesn't bring money. But if you want these programs to work, and I'll speak because in California, like the term is the OGs. It's those OGs have to come out and stop. You know, they might have moved away, but you got to go back to the city. The older guys that grew up there, that used to run, you know, get in trouble there, they have to go back to that city and want to clean it up. They have to go back and fix the messes that they made. They have to start taking care of their kids and their grandkids and teaching them how to be a part of society. Because if they don't start that, and I'm just saying that because I'll give you the example.
Someone they can relate to.
Yes. So I hear you, right? But you got Michael Tubbs, who was the mayor of Stockton, right? This dude wanted to do universal basic income. He wanted to do all these social programs. They didn't help Stockton. They may have helped the few individuals that he helped, but they didn't help progress it forward. They didn't clean up the homeless problem. They didn't stop the guns or the drugs. They may have slowed it down in some parts, but once it kind of phased in and people were like, fuck it, right back to normal business. And because...
Well, and what one of them were saying before was how when they go to try and help the kids who want to succeed and then don't pay attention to the other ones, that's kind of what happened with that program they were trying to do.
So, like I'm saying, like I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I think the key part in that, because I'm with you on that, like I think trade schools should come back. I think the key part of that is the community. The community has to want to come back. So this is something that I preach a lot. Like
the village has to become stronger.
is I'm minimal government in my life. And I don't think the government should, even when it comes to school, like, yeah, we're going to use what we can, but the more power you give them, the more opportunities you give them, the more they have control. So if we start letting them dictate our trade schools, then we eventually will run into the same problems right now where they start dictating what our kids are learning in schools and not telling us. And that's what we don't want. So I think the people need to come together. Like, I'm with you, right? But instead of the government, hey, we have this citizens group that is going to oversee this community program. And that citizen group, they're not political. They're people that come and you could have, down to City Hall. They make the decisions, giving it back to the people, what they think they need in their community, and starting to push community programs. Hey, we need these older people, whether it's guys or girls, to come out and start helping us clean the mess that they're a part of and that they created. And I think if you get to that, everything you just said, a lot of what you said can come in place. Because I'm telling you right now, like, I've mentored kids. I've been a part of a program, and a lot of the kids that I mentor, you can take them away and put them in a program. You have to pray to God and hope that whatever you taught these kids and whatever time you spent with them, that when they get released out of this program, that they don't go back. So I'll say the last 2 kids, right? One of them, I know he's in LA. He's doing great. I know because we're family. I didn't know that until I met the kid, but I'll ask his mom, hey, how's he doing?
You keep tabs on him.
I keep tabs on him, right? He won't respond to me, but that's good. I know he's doing good. The other kid, I lost him. I don't know where he's at. He don't respond to me. I mean, he kind of fell off. While they're in the program, they were good. They passed high school. What we hope for is, like, I can't stop that because he lives in a different city, so I can't keep that up with him. So I'm hoping that he found better influence. And that's kind of my point to this, is that, we have to start putting it back on the people, on the people that live in those communities. And that's the only way any of this is going to work.
Strengthening the village.
Sure. I just, so the programs that I'm speaking about are largely already in place, especially in the federal financial aid system. The problem is that in urban communities, the resources don't get to the kids because the kids aren't set up with the program. So the program is there, the money is there, but either they don't have a home computer, or the guidance counselor isn't meeting with these select few, which is actually many, because again, some of them are being taken care of, the rest of them are thrown away to the side. So it's getting to the fact where you have a goal where at least 80%, 90% need to have a plan of what they're doing. Then that's how you identify early on, like in 9th grade, which households are actually having issues. The school departments are mandated reporters. They have an obligation to report neglect or anything else. This is what we need to be finding on earlier on when we see parents that have issues with addiction, or parents that abuse their children. These children need to be taken out of that area. To go back to your other point of the OGs and getting them into the neighborhoods, I agree with that, but my way of doing it is a little bit different. So if my way is more authoritarian, just how I am as a person, which is well, if I was in office, if I was the mayor of Chicago, they would be sent. So we'd have an extra $2-3 million into the gang unit. I would be sending them. So that means 10 of you are going to go into this select area, and you're going to stay there for 16 hours. And because the block's going to be hot. I talked to Chelly about this a lot. When the block is hot, Chelly knows, the block is hot, people sway, they go away, they go inside. They don't stay on the block. They don't want to get caught up, especially the ones on parole. They try to flee. You take the city back and you say, listen, it's not going to take down the shootings that much, but what it's going to do is it's going to show people, listen, we're in control of the city. Lightfoot is in control of the city. Kim Fox isn't in control of the city. We're in control of the city. And this shit's going to end. The gang's going to end. The drugs are going to end. The guns are going to end. It's not going to end quickly, but what it does is it shows the strength. It's a show of force to say things are changing. Now when kids go to school, now they see more of a police presence. now maybe they get inspired and say, wow, or they see something that inspires them from a police officer, somebody rescuing somebody, etc. It starts that kind of motivation. And it starts it in a lot of other different areas. It just doesn't have to be policing. It could be medical, right? It could be military. Chris, you're a military man. So, I mean, I'm sure that there was people along the way that you looked up to and said, wow, that's the kind of guy I want to be. I want to be a protector, or I want to help people. So I think that certain things like that, if we could start getting that across to the kids early, right, then maybe we could make a bigger difference. But again, you need a strong show of force. And that's the thing, is that the officers are willing to do it. I think it's the city that is afraid to start that war, because they consider it a war. The police department says, no, it's our job. The city considers it as a war. We don't want to go to war against the gangs, because when I wanted to run in my city, some of the politicians said, well, we don't want to go up against the gangs. Well, why? Well, because, they were afraid. They were afraid to rattle the cages, because once you rattle the cages, then the other side says, well, you know what? We're going to strike back. But guess what? I'm sorry to say it like this, Chelly. I don't mean in a disrespectful way, but they're already killing you guys. They're already shooting you guys. So what is the point? You sit back with everybody in the upper line says, hold back, use of force, stand down. And police officers across this country are getting shot. They're getting struck by cars. They're getting knifed up. And the point is because we haven't given police departments and officers the right to sit there and say, listen, we're standing our ground and we're here. And that is how you beat the gangs. You have to be stronger than the gangs. Because once they smell weakness, they run all over you. I mean, it's factual. I mean, Chicago is riddled with it. But again, district by district. I don't know how they do it in Chicago, Chelly, if they call it like that. But, district by district, you clean a little bit up. You make that city a little bit better. Then you move your way through the city and you start pushing them out. That would be my goal. Now, I'm not a police officer, but I did go to school for criminal justice, so I have a little bit of a sense of this. That would be my plan. You need to start pushing these gangs, the drugs, and the guns out of these neighborhoods. Get the kids back into school. Get them to believe they actually have a chance at a normal life, because they sit there. And I know some of them. I've worked with some of these kids. Came from nothing, believed they would never be nothing. And you know what? It's not true. But when you see, all you see around you is death, despair, addiction, abuse. What else are you going to think? I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I just feel like that's a terrible position for a child to grow up in, to believe I can be whoever I want to be. Because I feel like maybe you would feel like you can't. You'd feel like the world is against you from day one, regardless of race, whether you're white, black, Asian, it doesn't matter. You grow up poor.
There needs to be more people like them that they can relate to, that are dedicated and committed to telling them the opposite of what they believe.
Right.
Hey, so and this is why I think it's good to have these conversations, right? Because, okay, you bring up a good point. Yeah, put more law enforcement in those areas that need it.
Hold on. There's some background noise. Is it Josh? Maybe.
Yeah.
He's driving.
Oh, so
yeah.
No, I think you got a point there, and that's why you got to have these conversations, and that's what we're lacking. Is that in a sense, like, you look at what we're doing, we're conversating, and you bring solutions, and we kind of get Chelly's point of view, Josh's, yours, mine, and we start having these conversations like, okay, we know that there's an attack on cops. We know that there's bad cops. We know these communities need help. What do? Boost up our law enforcement. They're not saying that they're out arresting, just the presence, because you're right. It might stray some people away. Put the presence out there. Get some, start trying to get your community, the guys that were the bad leaders, try to make them get out there and do some good stuff. I don't know, but taking a different approach. And Ricardo, you got jokes, dude. Yeah, that one right there, Ricardo Cruz. Chris wants to be me. That's
OG.
it. Like I said, I like that. I know I took a different stance at first, but once you said that, yeah, you're right. You got a point. Go ahead.
I want to add something. So, one, Chicago has had a Chicago Police and Firemen Training Program for youth for years. My daughter is going to be 33 this year. She did it in her junior and senior year. So it's been around for at least 15 years, if not more. That is available to anybody who wants to participate in it. And it's basically, they'll do 6 months in the fire academy, 6 months in the police academy. They do 2 years of it. And then once they finish their 2-year prerequisites for their associate's degree, they can join either department if they so choose.
That's awesome.
So we do have that program. Like I said, my daughter will be 33 this year. She was in it when she was 16 and 17. So they do have that. It's still available for teens here. Sorry, my husband's TV is loud as fuck. He's driving me nuts. Sorry. But so they do have that. Another thing, we have what's called it's a overtime initiative. And so basically you would sign up for it on your days off, and they would put you in the hottest neighborhoods. Excuse me. They'd put you in the hottest neighborhoods on your day off. You'd be assigned to a 2-block radius. So they'd have a squad car literally every 2 blocks in any kind of hot area. Our new mayor came in. It's gone. They have people at the lake now, more people at the lake. They have people at downtown. They have people in all these other places because the police being out there, again, was driving up our numbers. If I am assigned to a predominantly Black area, what are my traffic stops going to be?
Predominantly Black.
Correct. If I'm in a Hispanic area, what are my traffic stops going to be?
Right.
And you kind of had touched on this earlier when you were talking about I don't think you used the words racial profiling, but you talked about like where police were actually stopping more Black people at a certain time. And I wanted to touch on it then, but we kind of got into things. And I will tell you, it is for the same reasons why per numbers, because they always talk about per numbers, that the media kind of believes that Blacks are killed at an alarming rate more than any other race, because if they're only 13% of the population and this how many are killed, they're going to say it's because of the fact that just because they're Black. Well, it's actually not. It's actually because of the fact that they commit more crime. And I'm not saying that to be a racist. They have more contact with the police than any other race.
Right. I think in the Flint case, though, there was a the new police chief came in, at least in the Flint scenario. There was records that police officers were stopping specific citizens time and time again, over and over again. You know what I mean? So I totally get what you're saying.
So I think that even in Chicago, right? So the DOJ came here, which is the Department of Justice. DOJ came here. They said, "Oh, that this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong." First of all, I'm going to say how I feel. I think the DOJ is corrupt too. Period. That's just my personal opinion. I've seen some things that they've tried to implement, and they're full of shit. Period. That's just my personal opinion. I know what it's like to work here, and I know what we do and what we can't do. So that being said, what one of the things they said was our traffic stops again, that we were racially profiling, because the largest amount of stops were either Blacks or Hispanics. Well, if you saturate the police department to your hot areas, guess what? They are going to be Black and Hispanic. So that's not necessarily racially profiling. I am doing a job. And guess what? There's tons of people that don't have their city stickers, don't have their license. We need a city sticker for our vehicle in Chicago. You need a plate sticker for your vehicle in Chicago. If you're parked on a residential street, you need that sticker. So I will tell you, a lot of people in low poverty neighborhoods do not have those things all the time. So why do you think they're getting stopped more? That's probable cause to stop you. People in low poverty neighborhoods who don't have something fixed, or say their car, their tail light is out or it's broken or it's crashed and they can't just afford to fix it, right? I'm not saying me, but there are cops who will say, oh, that's probable cause to stop somebody, right? Because their tail light's out, it's against the law. Do you know what I'm saying? Where in a neighborhood where they are more wealthy, they're not going to have their tail lights broken out. They're going to have their city sticker bought. They're going to have their plate sticker bought.
So can I ask you a question? So out of all of those stops, though, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I would, from what I've seen, the Chicago Police Department is diverse. It's very diverse.
Very
So,
diverse.
so right, with those traffic stops, what if the traffic stops that were initiated and the tickets that were given by a black officer or a Hispanic officer
Well, that's
against
the
another
thing.
minority? Is that still profiling? Although
They
you are,
that's what I'm saying, is which is what pisses me off, is because when they give not you guys, when they give people the numbers like, yeah, they're racially profiling, well, what they're not looking at is how many offers per the amount of people in that neighborhood, right? Like that neighborhood is specifically saturated with police because the community is calling for more police. So you assign more police to that specific neighborhood. So there's going to be more stops. There's going to be more of whatever color that particular neighborhood is. What they don't tell you is who stopped them. Like I can tell you in my district alone, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually take a picture one day. I'm going to take a picture of me sitting in my roll call with every other officer, and I will tell you that white officers are the minority in my roll call, in my district, period. They used to be the majority. I mean, we all know that coppers were predominantly white or they were Irish. Like we had this whole thing where you were Irish or Jewish, like here in Chicago. But I will send it to you guys privately because I don't want to get called out for stuff.
what's
but
the breakdown? Would you say when you say minority, what kind of percentage are you talking about? 40%, lower than that?
in just in one roll call, the roll call that I sit in myself,
Yeah. The breakdown. Would you say the Caucasian is 40%, or would you say that it's even lower than that?
I would say it's 10%, maybe 5%.
Oh, really? Wow. It's just a little surprising to me.
I mean, I can give you names according to the way people sit right now. It's myself, it's Diaz, Perez, Echavarria, Wayne Patnett is a male black, Pam Evans, female black, Pete Rodriguez, male Hispanic, Colo, male white, Tracy Stroga, female white, Enrique Vadillo, male Hispanic. I'm trying to think of this guy's name. He's a Cuban dude, but he's Cuban. But I named 2 white people.
Yeah.
The
No,
majority is
that's
Hispanic and black.
that's interesting
Oh,
to me, though.
I forgot Chavola. He's Hispanic, Puerto Rican. I forgot Chavo. He's male black. Ortega, she's female Hispanic. So they literally, in my district, are the minority.
The end.
So the
That's-
insinuation would be then that the Latino officers are racially profiling
Yes.
African Americans.
Or
Okay.
Latino.
Well,
I was just trying to get it
Well,
straight
yes,
because I'm a
well,
little
yes.
confused.
So that's the thing, is when they take these numbers, this is what I don't like about a lot of these studies, is what they do is they'll take these numbers and they'll say, well, because all these, like they'll put, okay, these are all the people that were blacks, right? These are all the people that were Latinos. These are the people that are white. And now they add them up and they have more blacks, they have more Latinos, and then they have whites that are less. So you know what? We're not going to look at any name signed to that card. We're not going to look at who the officer is. We're just going to say, yep, look here, here's this stack and here's this stack. Racial profiling, next.
Yeah.
That's the point. I've never been a fan of these numbers because you know numbers, especially based on politics. We talk about politics all the time. Numbers can be manipulated to anything you want to believe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look at
Yeah.
that. Look at that.
They can, and you know what else I was just thinking about is if you run statistics like that, right? But you're not taking into account the diversity of the force, and you're only counting the statistics based off the ethnicity of the people that are actually getting stopped. That's flawed.
It has no
very
factual
flawed.
basis
There's no
at all,
factual
actually.
basis to that at all.
Exactly. It's very flawed. And not only is it flawed, it is, again, politicized for specific agendas.
Yep.
That's
And-
why
and-
I'm saying, like, other
Yeah.
people wouldn't know that. Like, if you're not inside the police department, and I'm telling you, I promise you guys, I'm going to take a picture. I go back to work on Thursday. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to send it to each one of you so you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
exactly what I'm
that's-
talking about.
that's a really interesting thing, because if you do take that into account, not only does it show that it's flawed, but it also shows that you don't have to manipulate numbers specifically to manipulate. You could just leave things out, because
Yeah.
they're only feeding you one side of the numbers. They're not really taking everything into a real broader view. Well, how many of these officers are actually diverse? How
It's like
many
a
of these-
pictograph with no
Yeah,
labels. Right?
exactly,
That's what I'm
exactly.
thinking about right now.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
it's-
about just big colors that look bigger,
And
but
then if
there's
you call
actually
them-
no correlating data that goes
No.
with it. It's like a bar
Yeah.
graph with no y-axis
Yeah.
describing what you're measuring.
Yeah, it's just the conclusion, but it doesn't give you any of the buildup of how you got to this conclusion.
Thank you for
If
sharing,
notice-
Shelly.
Yeah.
If you notice, they do that
Mind
on.
blown.
If you notice, they do that on a lot of stuff. COVID, they do it with COVID. They leave out a lot of data, and the biggest one, like in California, are age groups. So, like, I really don't talk work, right, when we're doing these panels, but for work, for a while I was dealing with mishaps, accidents, right? We were having like 246 to 280, and I'm talking real accidents, not just incidental offenders, like, collisions or whatnot. 280 something or 240 to 280 a year for multiple years, right? So a part of my job's data and analysis was figuring out what are the trends, where is this happening at, why. We're trying to get to the why so we can reduce it. So when I look at numbers, because that's kind of my thing, right? I look at COVID. First thing I notice, your age groups are off. 0 to 17, 18 to 48, 49 to 56. Is it 49 to 65, 65 and up? That right there will never give you a good indication of where we're at. It needs to be 0 to 4, 5 to 9, or however you may place it out. But the increments have to be right, or 0 to 5. You can say 0 to 5, 6 to
Like
10, whatever.
school age brackets.
Yes,
and then,
they
and
have
then,
to be
and then adult
proportion
brackets.
so you can see, or go by the age itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up until the oldest person that's died because of it. You have to come out, and they do some good things where they'll say, here's the population, here's the amount of people that died, but they'll never put it in the news. You can go find it, but they won't do it. So, like in California, they'll say majority of the people dying from COVID in California are Hispanic. But if you go look at our population, we're the minority. The Hispanic Latino community is the minority. We 90 no, it just in California as a whole, almost any county, 49%. Yes, we're the majority.
I'm like,
We're the majority
hold
in
on.
California.
That don't make no sense.
Okay, but but they tell you we're dying at a higher rate. Well, yeah, no shit, because we're most of the people.
Yeah.
I was gonna have to hit you with that per capita clause.
Yeah.
Same thing with the police. They never want to come out and say, hey, there was 20 Hispanic Latinos killed in your area, but they won't tell you who arrested them or who did it. Why? Because brown on brown crime, we know that don't matter. Black on black crime don't matter. It's the same thing when you got these people and they're worried about the police killing a white person. Like, okay, that matters, but what you pointed back to black on black, it doesn't. So my point is, like, when we're looking at data, if you're going to put out data, you got to put out everything. So like when I'm doing my reports, like if I'm put tasked to figure out why and where, I'm looking at times, days, location. We have, 30 different locations, what section, what type of equipment. I mean, and I'm taking it down to the very T, as much data as I can find.
And he's really good at his job.
And so this way, when I come back and I say, okay, I know, and I can tell you for sure, at somewhere between 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., majority of our forklifts are happening between this age range. I personally don't do race, but I'll do male, female, because to me, race doesn't matter. But I'll do male, female, just because it kind of gives an indication of where we should maybe look. But I try to stay away from it. But most of it's age, and then like, okay, how old were they? So who's our target audience? Who do we got to look at? And you're looking at lifts and all this other stuff. So when I get done, like at the end, I was like, man, I have this very clear picture. It's the younger guys, and it's the very older, like I'm talking the older guys that are like, shouldn't be on a lift. Complacency and just not, I would say overconfidence, because they've been doing it for 50 years. So when you're looking at this picture, like, damn, I know how to fix the problem. I know the solution because it's right in front of you, got all the data. We don't get that with, that's my point. We don't get that with the police when they're talking about all these shooting a black man. You never hear, brown, and the Asian thing's not going to stick very long, because if you really get into the Asian hate, come to the Bay Area, black people are beating up Asian people. That's what you're watching on TV. They just don't want to call it for what it is. But if you look at the stuff on TV, 8 out of the 10 clips are black people beating up Asian people. But they don't want to do that because it defeats the narrative. But once they put out all the data, you'll see that they won't do it, because they know that it I'm sorry, she was confused. I'm sorry, my bad. If I confuse anybody, but the point is, if you
it's because when you were saying minority about
you got to put out all the data, all the numbers, and you got to make it public and easy to get to, so people can see it for themselves. And when they report, they have to report on the whole thing, or don't report it at all. That's kind of my take on that.
It's manipulation at its finest.
Can I add something? So I'm really like, my brain is like working overdrive with what Shelly told me about that, because I never thought of that from that angle. So the thing with data too, right? If you think about it, you can still break down data and statistics from the final data and statistics that they give you from that conclusion. You can pick it apart and try to correlate certain things. So you hear a lot of the talking points of, well, they don't have a lot of diverse police. Well, now I know that's false, because Shelly's a cop. She just told me that. So that won't solve the problem. So if that's not the issue, and they leave things out like that, and you start to dissect things like that, and then you take things like from what Austin was saying, I think the best bet to improve the overall safety of police and the community would be to actually do something along the lines of what Austin was saying, actually try to uplift that community, because I feel like a lot of people don't care about the communities because the community's already shit. So why are we gonna? Who cares? You know what I mean? They're in the mind frame of who cares. So I think if you actually empower the community, that would incentivize the community to care when people start attacking police. They'll want police around in that community because they worked hard to get that community into the shape of how they want it to be. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like an axiom. So my whole brain is working differently now, because I wasn't viewing it that way. I feel like the major problem is that I don't think a lot of liberals and a lot of Democrats are doing this purposely. I think some are. I don't think they all are when it comes to the politician side. I think what happened is when they implemented that thing, the Great Society program with Lyndon Baines Johnson, they did it out of good faith, most of them, but it actually made things worse. And instead of manning up and saying that, you know what, this idea was good, but it made it worse, they just kept funneling money to it and making it even more worse. And then you ended up with the communities the way they are now. So I agree with, I think between Austin and Shelly today, man, they got my whole mind looking at things from a different perspective now, because I think it's amazing, man. They gotta, conservatives in general, man, they do gotta admit that it's there. It might not be there for the reasons of what people are telling them that it's there for, but it is there. It needs to be acknowledged that it's there, and it has to be addressed. Because if it's not addressed, then people ain't gonna care about having police in the community. They're not gonna look at the police in a good light because the community's trash. And it's going to make the police officer's job more dangerous, and people won't support the police because they don't even support their own neighborhoods. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, man.
I do have to go, but I just want to say to close, I thought, see, these are the conversations
go
that
ahead,
are
Austin,
important. These are the conversations that are important because, you know, again, and anybody that's watching, just pay attention to what the conversation is. Tonight, you heard a conversation that was about fixing the issue. The conversations that are happening in the mainstream media, in the talking points and the clickbait, has nothing to do about how you're going to fix the issue. So again, I urge people out there, when you watch your platforms, when you watch different things, please understand who you're watching, who that person is associating themselves with, what they are saying to you, what they are sharing to you, and what they have to gain out of it. Because again, conversations like this are not occurring in the mainstream media. They're not occurring in any other places that I'm seeing. We are debating semantics. We are not talking about the issues at hand, which we talked about here tonight. Although I have to go because I have a fiance that's been waiting for me for 2.5 hours, who's been very, very patient. But anybody that watches my show understands that, again, understand the demonization, the vitriol, the anger, the hate. We need to leave it aside. We need to start being the party that is going to stand up and help the American people. And unfortunately, we are not that party today. But with ideas like this, with people like us, moving the conversation forward, eventually we will be able to get there. But again, have these conversations yourself, with your friends, with your family members. Leave the dialogue and the rhetoric aside and actually talk about common sense reform issues that you could bring up to your politicians or your local boards. And maybe these ideas that Chelly talked about and I talked about and Josh talks about, if they make sense to you, bring them up. Say, hey, maybe we should do this. Because this isn't just a Chicago issue. This is in all urban areas with high crime rates. So if you liked any of the ideas that you had tonight, share them, bring them up, come up with your other ideas that you have, but walk away from this rhetoric. Walk away from the Alex Joneses of the world, of the people that are pandering to you to get views, to make money. Hello, wake up. This is what these people are doing. They say batshit crazy things because it makes them money. The same people that complain about Facebook and YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, to end this, are the same people that are making thousands of dollars a month off of them. Think about that. So while they sit there and say YouTube is such a terrible place, blah, 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 they make thousands of dollars doing it. So who are they actually standing up for? Who are they actually fighting for? That's what I wanted to leave everybody with. Realize what you're watching. Understand the information you are receiving and that you are sharing. And always do your research because there's so much fake news out there. Don't believe it. Do your research, please, and the world will be a better place. Chelly, as always, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. And please tell your fiance I said thank you. All right,
Yes, I will. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Austin.
Good night, Austin. All right, let's go into our final thoughts.
Us, you. I'll go.
Josh.
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So I want to leave with this, man. Where'd I put it? All right. So with everything we're talking about, we'll go back to like the video, right? I think in some areas when we're looking at like those videos that you put up, we're desensitized to the things that we shouldn't, and we're over emotional about things that there's no need to be over emotional about. So we're mostly attached to things like BLM and police brutality and the false narratives or things like that. Desensitized to murder, walking around with our cell phones like that. That to me is ass backwards. We shouldn't be there. I got Josh. I got to give you a shout out again. Like you asked, I think what you were doing by asking Chelly questions, like or like those things like that, and you're like, oh man, I didn't know. Like I was like you say 6-7 years ago. Like I started finding more people that worked in the police department, and a lot of the guys I know in the police department are Hispanic or people of color. I know maybe like, and I'm talking outside the federal police because I work on an installation. Like majority of the guys I know are Hispanic, then black, and then I know like a couple white guys. I started asking questions, and I'm telling you, like, you really get to talking to cops, especially good ones. Like you're like, dude, they got to go through a lot. So if I guess what I'm getting to for out there, like people, like if you don't trust cops or you don't understand, like, man, make yourself a cop friend and have a conversation with them and get to know like a little bit of what they go through, because it is mind blowing. And especially when you got to deal with, if your city's at 80,000, 8,000 or 800,000, like that's a lot of different personalities, and you can train all you want, but you're never 100% prepared for every situation. And the only other thing is that I just want to throw this out there real quick before I jump off is pay attention to your kids and what they're listening to. And if there's any kids out there that ever listen to this, like think about what you're listening to, because we bring a lot of this stuff on ourselves. We wonder why there's such an attack on the police or a negative outlook on the police, but we hear it every day. Like this is in the movies, it's in the music, and I just want to. There's a group out of I believe they're out of Vallejo, San Francisco area, right? They're SOB. They put out a song in 2017. Now I'm not gonna lie, I like it because I like the beat. It's got a good bass to it. But I got to listening to the words, and one of the parts in there is he talks about strip an officer for his badge and then make him give it up. And it's these things where when you're listening to the lyrics, right? And I really listened to it today for the first time. Like I usually just turn it on, I hear it on the radio, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Didn't really care like to listen to it that deeply. But then I was like, oh, I don't know if I really feel this song, because this is what these kids are listening to, and they hear it and they keep playing it and playing it and playing it. And that's why they have this perception that, hey, they don't give a fuck about cops. Take their badge. And if they want to get at you, shoot them. Like they're talking about like, I'll bust at the police. Why are we? I just don't understand like how this type of music, like back like when I was growing up, like if you wanted to listen to something like Bone Thugs or something, like you had to go sneak a CD. It was censored. There's no censorship. You can just, my kids could get on and listen to all of this. Like I had to find a friend who has some lousy parents that bought them those CDs, and hopefully I could get mine. Like that's how it worked. Or go to a record store and hopefully they didn't question me and just sold me the CD.
Or stay up really late and record it on a tape player.
But subliminal messaging, it's out there, and we take part in it even when we don't think we are. And I think we got to really wake up and open our eyes up to that. And with that, I got to step out. Josh, again, hey, I appreciate it. You and Austin, I got something again from you guys. Charlie, I felt like we haven't been here for like a week or so. It's been a while, but it was nice. And I'll see you after the show.
Wait, you know what? Wait, Chris, before you go, I want to throw a little fact at you before you go. So you know how a fact. One extra fact to add to your little to add to your library. So you know how Joe Biden kind of just mentioned that he wants them to approve the gun laws that are sitting in the Senate because of the shooting yesterday in Boulder, etc.
Oh, the gun laws?
The gun laws.
Yeah.
So today during his speech, he said this is why it was so important. He needs them to approve it, blah, blah, blah. But I will tell you this is what people are not looking at, right? Because you hear that and people are just going to believe that, not knowing what's going on. Well, Colorado, the things that they ask for in the gun laws are universal background checks, red flag gun seizure laws, high capacity magazine bans, a passing gun control grade, right? That's what they want in these laws. In like, it's HR 1440 something, and there's HR, I can't remember the numbers right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyways, guess what? He's saying that because of Colorado and all this stuff, that's why they need to be passed. Colorado already has them all.
Yeah. Hey, when they start talking about guns, we need background checks. I had to get a background check to get my last one. Like, we do background checks. Oh, we let no high capacity. Okay, I can't have a 30-round magazine. That's been a law. No AR. They keep calling assault rifles. They keep calling They call
They are.
every rifle an assault rifle. And it's like, you all don't even know what the hell you're talking about. They know nothing between a single shot, burst rounds, semi-automatic, fully automatic. There's laws against this stuff. And no matter what, this is like, the one thing that people don't understand is that criminals are going to be criminals.
Period.
If you want to do bad stuff, you're going to do it. And I'll be the first person to tell you, like, I'm no saint. Like, I've done stupid shit in my life and I knew better, but I still did it. For whatever reason I might have had or felt justified, I still did it. You're not going to stop people from doing stuff. So you can put all the laws up. Go ahead, ban guns. Guess what? I'll go across the border and get some. That's as simple as that. Now, I'm not saying I would, but if it really came down to that point, like, where do you think we get these guns from anyways? I know, also specifically California, take our guns away. The bad guys are still going to get them. Why? Because for me, we'll point that way because it really is south. They come right from over the border, just with like our drones and everything else. You're not going to stop it. And these people are so dumb that they strip everybody of everything. Idiots.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you actually knew that because I was like reading some stuff today and I was like, oh, wait. I was like, Biden, you should have probably investigated that before you put your foot in your mouth.
What they need
Colorado has that.
What they need to do, it's like, so take a look at New Amsterdam, right? Like the places that have legalized prostitution, marijuana, right? That were doing it first. If it's that big of a problem, legalize it, track it. Now, I'm not one for like, I don't think we should just let any drug be legal, but if we're having that big of a problem, legalize it and track it. And then this way it becomes a legit business. You know who the hell's doing it. And then you can hopefully drive crime down. Now, again, not for everything, but some things, right? So my point is, hey, if somebody wants a 30-round magazine, okay, instead of, because you could make those, and people don't understand, like, you could make a gun. You could get something that's 80% made and still have it shipped into state, at least here. And then you can tap it or do whatever you got to do, hit it with the drill press. You can make whatever you want. You can get the pieces. Just because you banned it doesn't mean you're going to stop it. So why not make it legal and track it? Right. Because if I want a 30-round, and this is the other stupid shit they don't get, you put 30 rounds on an AR, or you have, your pack, and you're walking around with 6 30-round magazines. At a certain point, your barrel's going to get hot. At a certain point, your weapon's not going to fire like it should be. And if you don't take care of it, and there's so much that goes into it, your barrel, you could have a malfunction. But leave it to the people that never shot a weapon to tell you how and what you can and cannot have.
Or how to use it.
Because I'll tell you right now, I probably wouldn't, I might have a 30-round magazine in the house. Probably wouldn't put 30 rounds in it, maybe 20. Probably wouldn't be rocking around with a bunch of it's unnecessary. And I sure in the hell know what the capabilities are of what I have. And it wouldn't be like, I'm not going to walk out there with a 100-round drum. Because like these rappers talk about, you're an idiot. By the time you blow through 50, you won't hit your target and your weapon's going to malfunction. I'm going to leave with that because I got to go. You guys have a good night.
Good night, Chris. Thank you.
Reeling him in.
Josh, you have any last thoughts?
Yeah. So I really liked this conversation today. It opened up my eyes to something that I didn't really look at. I'm one of those people I constantly thinking. I'm always thinking about what somebody says, and then I think about something I might relate to it constantly. I do it all the time. But there was something really important that I learned today, and one was that stat you gave me, and I never actually really thought of it from that angle. And it was also what Austin was getting at, what we were kind of talking about is I feel like the problem that we're in right now is that it's a big blame game. Nobody wants to fix any of these problems because we're too busy saying, well, it's this person's fault, or it's this group of people's fault, or it's this general idea. And that's the reason why these people are in this predicament, but it still doesn't solve the predicament. But these conversations are good. They're definitely needed. I can't emphasize it enough, man. People really have to start engaging with these type of conversations and really try to get through to people. And especially when it comes to data and statistics and really getting people to question themselves. like I had the habit when I first started getting really, really deep into politics and stuff and going back and forth with people. I was always going for the kill, man. I was always going to just prove them wrong, and you can't do it because you want people to start questioning the things that they actually believe in so strongly. Because if not, you're not going to change their mind, and it creates a big problem. So I think today's episode was really good. I picked up on a lot of stuff. I'm definitely going to go home and look at some different things. I would actually like some more police statistics on certain things. I'm going to send you some questions and ask you, see if you guys can give me some data on some other things that I kind of want to look into now. And yeah, man, anytime you guys want to do this, man, I think it's great. I would also stress to people, man, I'm running for political office in my state. I never thought I'd be doing it before, but I am. It's really not that hard. You'd be surprised that some of these people that actually win these elections, they win. A lot of them win because nobody's really running against them.
Right.
But some of these elections, especially statewide, it makes big differences. They pass certain things and can prevent certain things from passing that you wouldn't think. Like today, my state pretty much just got killed. Like we got the kill shot today because no one pays attention to local elections. They passed the Green New Deal. And not only did they pass this Green New Deal in my state, but it grants the ECCC, which is an outside organization, to implement mandates for my state, and the citizens of my state have to legally abide by these. We didn't even vote for these people. This is a corporation. That's how insane it is. So I would urge anybody in any state that's listening to, if you think you got it in you and you have the time and you really want to make the difference, to think about taking that route, because we need people to actually start winning some of these seats, and that are not just running to just get the label and get the little pin, like actually want to make some change. Because my state is like, I might have to move out of the state today, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But today's episode was great, man. Opened up my eyes to a lot of new things for sure.
No, well, thank you for being here. I always love John Tisha, and I both love and appreciate you when you're with us. You add so much to the show, so you know that you are welcome anytime. Send me any questions you want. Like I said, I'm gonna send you guys that picture, like so people know, like, hey, this is what it looks like, and it looks brown and black to me, but I don't know. But thank you for coming. I appreciate you. Anyways, John Tisha, final thoughts.
I know I didn't have a whole lot to say today, but my final thoughts are going to probably be what they usually are, which is change starts with you, inside you. Self-awareness, self-accountability, changing the mindset, changing how you perceive things, stop believing the lies that you've been told, and then teach them to your kids, and then teach them to your friends, your kids' friends, and then to your friends, and so on and so forth, to make sure that your ripple is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because change starts with one person, and that's us. And if we want to see change in our world, then we have to be that change. We have to be the love and light. Treat others how you want to be treated, and walk in love always.
I agree. I definitely agree. My final thoughts are basically, we kind of wrapped everything up. We spoke about everything we wanted to speak about. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We really do try to work hard to get you guys multiple people in here, very different perspectives. Again, if you guys have not liked our YouTube page, please go to our YouTube page, like and subscribe to our YouTube page. We would greatly appreciate it. That being said, let's see if I did this right. Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to put a little thank you. We appreciate you guys. My actual final thoughts, somebody had asked me earlier about my shirt. I didn't want you guys thinking I was putting just my boobs in the camera, but it basically says, you may not know me, but I got your 6.
Oh, I like that.
So that just means you're back. Your 6 is your back. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and share this video. We will see you again in a few days with something new, but we love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Till next time.